Good evening, my local drone. I'm back again for another video. So today, me and Kaiser and Peridodic Pete are going to be doing a discussion about Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. So, gentlemen, introduce yourself.
I am the Heisenberg of YouTube. No further introduction needed. Okay, so I make videos on I make videos on stuff that I want to talk about, except within the past year I've kind of been dead because I've been working on a really long video. I talk about writing and art in general, and I also just really like animation. That's me. Here's Mega Man.
Yeah. What do you mean? These people already know who I am. I don't need to introduce myself.
Okay, no introduction needed. There's X. Yeah, sorry, not Mega X.
I mean, I guess I could. Yeah, I guess I could just say, yeah, it's good to be back. You know, just carrying this 1.5K subscribership on my back. You know, and just getting my workouts.
I told you. I'm just gonna keep like reminding you every time because I did tell you. You have been told, Kaiser, and I will continue to tell you.
Pete, stop making this about you. Why can't we just make this about 5Ds, okay? Why can't we make this about card games on motorcycles? That's what we're doing.
Oh, by the way, I love the explanation in the manga version where they talk about how they were not ancient knights, they were dual on horseback. So in the modern era, they're like, okay, instead of horses, let's do motorbikes.
But that's how they did it in Egypt, but instead it was with camel.
It was with camels and chariots.
Yeah.
Honestly, it would kind of be dope to see the fucking medieval Yu-Gi-Oh!
If we can, if you want to throw deck masters into it, maybe the thing that they ride is a monster that they summon.
Ooh,
you just imagine, imagine that duel where Yami was chasing after Bakura on horseback, and he was riding on Slifer the executive producer, and they were just turbo dueling like that.
Okay, you hear that, Konami? Write these ideas and put them in the suggestion box. You're good to go.
Exactly.
Because that's what Yu-Gi-Oh needs. More gimmicks.
Okay, as much as we're making fun of the motorcycle thing, I actually must admit that them riding on motorcycles does make the duels feel a bit more dynamic.
It is kind of neat.
Oh yeah, it's always been.
I like the acknowledgement of different formats in Yu-Gi-Oh, and I know that they technically had that with the Deckmaster thing that didn't really go anywhere after that arc ended. But, I like that there is acknowledgement of different kinds of formats, kind of like how in Magic there's all these different kinds of formats and ways to play the game. I think that the execution of turbo dueling in certain contexts can be a little bit silly, besides the fact that they are playing a card game on a motorcycle. But it has more so to do with the outrunning. Well, I guess it's not even the turbo duel then that's silly. It's the fact that you have actual police chases that just come down to a turbo duel is the part that I find kind of silly. And actually, if we're gonna talk about this, Kaiser, I know that we talked about this a while ago, but can we talk about episode 1? How awful the dub was?
Yes.
It's so amazing to me how you can change just a couple of lines and make it so much 4 kids.
Okay, audience, hold on a second. Just keep in mind, audience, we watched the sub version because
we did.
We actually wanted to take this shit seriously.
Yeah.
Okay, I know it's fucking weird taking a show about card games on motorcycles seriously, but we actually wanted to enjoy the story and not be there for the fucking 4 kids meme-atude, okay? So me and Pete watched the first episode in the sub, and then we watched it in the dub, and then our brains broke.
4 kids are artisans of breaking what wasn't broken or breaking something more than it was, because holy fuck, it's amazing how you can change just a couple lines of dialogue and completely change every bit of context about the episode. I think the biggest problem, at least from what I can remember, was the opening when you had Rally who stole something. It was a chip that they were going to use in
You say D-Wheel.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
And she, after we talk about the first episode, we should actually like tell people what the show is about before we continue further. But continue.
Yeah, sorry. This is the last that we'll talk about 4Kids because this
like,
was
I don't know, like 20 years old. But yeah, let's do that.
Because I could not stand to watch another episode after episode 1 of the dub. So we won't talk about it anymore after this. But like, so in the sub,
there's only one thing after. Well, okay, there's one thing I will mention, but it's not a whole episode. It's a short thing. But you go ahead.
So Rally stole this little chip for the D-Wheeler, or as they're called in the dub, Dual Rider, or I guess I'll call him a D-Wheeler anyway. I can't be fucked to remember. But anyways, so he stole this in the sub, but in the dub, he didn't actually steal it. He just found it on the ground. What a coincidence that he just happened to find it. Well, it turns out that it was left there by Officer Trudge so that he would lead them back to Yusei and everyone else. And you might ask yourself, well, wait a minute, didn't Trudge just give up a highly valuable chip to a bunch of like this chip eventually allows Yusei to escape the satellite. So not only did he give them this incredibly expensive piece of hardware that he never retrieves, but like is also the reason why Yusei gets out of the satellite. And nothing comes from this ever again. But wait, there's more. And I mean, the fact that like they had to change it, because I understand why they changed it like that. It's still really fucking dumb that they did, because we can't have main characters who steal stuff. It can't be that like he stole. No, like, you know, it's not like you live in this criminal-ridden kind of slum, and that would just be kind of something that anyone would do just to survive. Oh, that's just, we can't. This is a kid show. You can't have stealing in kid shows.
Listen, man. Okay, poor people are perfect angels. They never do anything wrong.
For that matter, you didn't.
I mean, if we're looking at it like a rap sheet, what are the other things that Yusei does in the show? He breaks into a secure vault. He tries to break in and break out of prison.
Or like when he fucking like kicks those two guys in the tournament arc, just brutally assaults two guys. That's in the dub too. Like it's been a while since I saw
kept that. I'm surprised they kept that, because it's like I guess there wasn't really much of a way for them to avoid it.
Stealing is wrong, but beating the shit out of people, that's
assaulting like an officer as well. Like, listen, assaulting an officer, disrupting the peace, trespassing. I mean, Yusei is quite the rap sheet. And quite the rap sheet.
But like, with that context, Trudge didn't need to like use the chip to lure him out, because he could have just tracked Rally back to their place anyways. He didn't need him to take the chip with him. So I guess for the people who don't know, some of the people in the satellite are given marks, George Orwell style, that basically allows the government to be able to track their location anywhere at all times. And that's what
Yugioh,
this kid Rally.
1984.
Exactly. And so yeah, there was no reason. You just had to follow Rally. Like, if they knew that Rally hung out with Yusei, you didn't need that. But it gets better. So once they catch up to Yusei, because he was the whole reason they did this. It's not like, meanwhile in the sub, the whole reason that they were doing this was just so that they could get back the stolen property that Rally had, and Yusei just happened to throw them off his tail. No, they were after Yusei the whole time. And basically they corner him and they're about to take him in, and then instead Yusei so this is actually one thing I feel was done better over the sub. It's an incredibly stupid reason, but the thing is, something else that they changed is they tried to give a reason why they had a duel instead of just have Trudge arrest him on the spot, because they had him cornered. They didn't, need to do anything else. And the reason was, if you catch me, I'll tell them that, you were the one who personally caught me, and then you'll get promoted. I don't know how that fucking works, that like a fucking criminal somehow has sway over whether or not you get. That seems like a system.
Listen, that's just Yusei's like personal charisma, man. Like,
Yeah, but like in the sub, there just straight up wasn't a reason for it. It was just, kind of like, I guess Duelist Honor or something like that.
Actually, wait a minute. Yeah, so if I remember correctly, In the sub, what happened is I keep forgetting which one did this. In one of the dubs, freaking Yusei said that I'm pretty sure it's the sub. Yeah, the sub was all like, okay, Yusei says, hey, if you beat me in a duel, you can arrest me and say that I stole the chip. And Rally didn't. Rally can go free. So yeah, it does take on that sort of duelist honor sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But like,
yeah, that is a thing that
actually, I
pops
want to
up.
remember if
That is
like,
a thing that pops up a few times in the show. Like that's a quote that gets mentioned a few times in the show as well. So there's that aspect, I guess.
Yeah, but like the overall point being that, you know, instead of I mean, I guess this is kind of, I'd have to rewatch that god-awful episode because I don't have the notes anymore. But there was just so much stuff. They just with the changing of the context of how Rally got the chip and what they were really after. Like, they were apparently after Yusei this whole time. But then they, like, nobody ever is like, oh, Trudge, you gave up this guy who we were trying to go after just because you lost a duel? And, like, that never comes up again. That, like, that he's, like, a wanted criminal that, like, all the police want or some shit like that, and that never comes up again. And, like, you just changed a couple lines and you suddenly change the context of everything about these characters going forward.
And also they made it so that like Yusei and Trudge had like history prior to the story starring in the dub. They're like, oh, I you know, you used to be the biggest joke in the academy or some bullshit like that. I was like, bro, what?
Yeah.
Why they decide to put that in? Like, I don't even know.
I don't get it, because it's all just to, I don't like, because I get the stuff why they wanted what they changed with Rally and the chip, because again, we can't have characters who steal, but like trying to add all this stuff about the history that Yusei had with Trudge or something like that, and then also trying to make him like this super exactly again, and then also trying to make Yusei this super duper wanted fugitive who they've been trying to track down for a really long time, when that's a plot point that's going to be forgotten entirely because 4Kids made it up on the spot. I don't get why you did.
Yeah. Also, sorry to cut you off, but also considering Yusei's actual history.
Thanks, 4Kids. Now we can talk about the show. Now we can talk about the sub. Let's talk about the good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, let's actually talk about what the show is actually about. So who wants to like introduce it? Because I'm not good at doing.
Now that we have talked about the first episode, let's talk about what's actually about.
I don't think people will be that friggin' confused about what the show is about, but that's fine. Whatever. So in the world of 5Ds, you know, people. Duels take place on the ground, of course, but there's also you know, D wheels and shit like that. People dueling while on motorcycles, and the rules are different when they're riding on motorcycles, which I like and we can get to later. But anyways, in Neo Domino City, because I guess maybe the old one got blown up or something, who knows? Freaking
it did
there
get blown
are
up.
people that live.
Did
it? Okay.
Well, we can talk about that. We can talk about
we'll get to that. We'll get to that. But anyways, so there's Neo Domino City, and then there's the adjacent island, the satellite, where basically they stick all the criminals and, you know, underbelly of society in there to basically recycle trash for the rest of their lives. It's like Guantanamo Bay, but fucking Yu-Gi-Oh. And we have our main character, Yusei Fudo, who has it out for the current champion of the dueling world, Jack Atlas, and they have some history with each other. And at the start of the story, he's trying to basically get back at Jack by fixing up his own D-wheel in order to get to satellite, even though he isn't supposed to get out of the satellite, even though, you know, that's against the rules and shit. And what follows is a story about a man trying to rise above his destiny.
Yeah. And there's also just a lot of other stuff that's kind of like, besides just a guy who's trying to get out of the slums and is just kind of stuck there, we also have a pseudo revenge story going on, because one of Yusei's oldest friends, a guy named Jack Atlas, we see literally in the first scene of episode 1, has gone on to become one of the most famous duelists in the entire world, certainly the most famous in Neo Domino, and it was all because he ended up escaping from the satellite and went on to become a great duelist and champion, world champion, I think, something like that. And how did he do this?
Yeah, basically.
Well, he stole Yusei's D-wheeler that he was going to use, as well as his prized Stardust Dragon, which is basically the dark magician for this show's MC, that like gives you any kind of indication
can
of
I
how
just
important
say-
that is. Mhm.
Yeah, which can I just say, what a fucking rad way to start this goddamn show.
Yes.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
actually having, like, this is so, like, number one, this makes things so proactive and immediately empathetic towards you say right from the gate. But also, it's such a, like, we've seen the rival characters, like, I guess at this point we would have seen the original in GX, right?
Yep.
But as petty as Kaiba was, especially in the first episode, it wasn't so petty to the point where this caused the main character to act this quickly, right? And having like a legitimate grudge, okay? Because with Yugi towards Kaiba at the start, it was much more defensive, which fits a lot with his character anyways. But this helps sets the stage for the route that the story was going to go from here on in, and just the general route of like how the world treats Yusei.
He plays a much more antagonistic role in this show than Kaiba does in the original series. In fact, like he honestly is
definitely does.
He's more like, if you put he's more like, or at least in terms of like motivation for the main character, he has more in common with Pegasus than he does with Kaiba, just by virtue of the fact that he did something to the main character. The main character, he stole something / someone from the main character that they're trying to get back.
And they were friends, and he betrayed him.
Exactly, and so that's what's cool about this.
That's what I
is
actually like about Yugioh 5D's. It's similar to Yugioh Reigns. It kind of like the plot just kicks off. Like, you know, there's no dead time wasted explaining. It's just like, this is the goal, this is the quest, and Yusei's going to do whatever it takes to get it.
Yeah. We don't talk about episode 2.
Ugh.
So it's fine. Like, we don't have to.
Let's not talk.
For those of you who are wondering, episode. You know what? No, we're not even. Yeah, just
don't even mention episode 2. That was just
there's no episode 2.
I don't even know what I'm talking about. Like, it's so
weird.
Do you guys find it weird that like it was kind of bold choice for them to have episode 1 and then immediately after was episode 3? I don't know what like that was about, but
might be some licensing or localization issue.
Probably
or
that was probably what ended up happening.
Things like that happen.
But yeah, I like that, and I also just like that it's a little bit more grounded, or at least that early conflict is. Nothing against world-ending, gods destroying the world, and then you save it with a card game and power of friendship. But I also like the fact that it's just guy wants to get out of the slums, get back at the guy who betrayed him, get his card back, and also maybe win a tournament in the mix. And that's it.
It's actually pretty grounded and straightforward, and that's kind of what I like about 5Ds. As fantastical as it gets sometimes. Like the first season, I guess the first arc is it's very grounded. It's very kind of street level, and I don't think we really see much of that.
Dude, there's no fat.
Yeah, there's no fat. It's very
there's no fat in this thing. It's all meat. It's so fun. This is the most nutritious show I've seen in a while.
Yeah.
And most of the episodes, it's just wow, finally something to chew on. And you have a main protagonist who has he assaults cops, trespasses, breaking and entering. He does a lot of shit, and he's pretty fucking proactive too.
This makes makes perfect sense in context. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe not the cops challenging the people they're trying to catch to a card game, but a lot of the other stuff does make sense.
Yeah,
that's something we'll talk about in a bit, because
but what I actually like about it is that you actually empathize with Yusei's struggle. You can understand why he wants to get out of the satellite, because the thing with the satellite is that even if you're not a criminal, if you're born there,
it's a dump.
Yeah, say for example you're born there, you're stuck there, you can't fucking leave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just kind of makes it's not even just that. It's just so many things. It's the general Orwellian kind of dystopia that it has set up. It's the fact that they're in a dump. A bunch of them are branded and labeled so that the government can track them. They got no privacy and shit. This is ignoring already how everyone else looks down on them, how their very existence outside of the satellite is basically a crime. It's it's so many factors.
Yeah, and for some people they'll just born there.
The fact that the people that are born there or just live there, you basically have to just steal in order to survive, essentially, which means that oftentimes people get stolen from, even children.
And the worst part of all, card games are illegal. That's the worst. Basically. So
Yeah, but the
Well,
satellites
actually,
are
I
mean
don't think they
street.
made the
It's
card
like,
games themselves illegal. I'm pretty sure they can.
oh,
still
maybe
do
that was something else that was in the dub then, because I know that was something that was in the dub.
I don't think card games
But-
are illegal, but I think like card-based illegal criminal activities are illegal, obviously. But I
Yeah.
don't think cards themselves are illegal.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah,
I'd have to
they're
check that
not.
again.
I do
Okay.
know that dual wheels I think are illegal because I know like we're going to talk about
Yeah.
Crow later, but when they saw his bike, he's just like, okay, confiscate that.
Yeah, no, just not allowed.
Yeah.
No fun allowed in the satellite.
Yeah, exactly.
No
Unless it's
fun
card
allowed.
games.
Yeah, that's the only
But
thing
you
that-
gotta play normal.
Yes, on the ground.
Well, yeah,
On the
we're letting you
ground.
use. Yeah, you guys have those dual discs you have. Those aren't property. Those are privileges. We can take those away whenever we want, and you just
Yep.
get to use them because we're nice.
Yep.
That's the worst part of it. Not like the fucking no privacy being marked whenever you do something mildly illegal. Just no. It's the no motorcycles.
Yeah, so as you can see why people want to get out of the fucking ghetto and want to go to like New Domino City. I mean, even though what Jack did was pretty bad, you can kind of understand why he did it because he's just like, I'm fucking stuck here. I'm stuck here. I don't
Yeah.
want to be here.
I think
mean,
that there are some questions regarding the motivations of Godwin, who is, for those of you who don't know, is the director of the security, I guess, just security in the, I forget what it was called, but like, he's basically in charge of like law
public
enforcement.
security.
Yeah, he's in charge of pretty much all
sort
law
of,
enforcement in Neo Domino City, and he was part of the reason how he was able to give Jack a clean slate despite being from the satellite, and also hide the fact from, because obviously people would be pretty weirded out if someone happened to win this tournament who was from the satellite. Like that would just be, that'd be insane. Like a dirty satellite winning the tournament in Neo Domino. That's possible.
Yeah, and also going forward, so obviously Yusei eventually escapes the satellite, and I just want to say that rematch between Jack and Yusei was fucking amazing. Great.
Well, I think it's cool. I think it's cool too because it was already based. It was based on like this was the second time that they dueled since episode 1, and the first one, technically didn't get resolved. But later we find out during like replays that Jack saw that Yusei had a card and he was pissed off because he was like, shit, I would have lost. And like, it's interesting because he's an actual character. He's not just like mean guy who stole main character's shit. He's actually kind of pissed that he should have technically lost.
Yeah.
And he doesn't even like want to ignore it either. Like it, wouldn't have happened because he's just that awesome. It's something that he actually acknowledges, wants to take to heart. And that's what so it not only is there anticipation building up to their next duel because of the stuff that Yusei has to get back, but also because of the unfinished business that now Jack has, because now he's like, shit, I gotta even the score because that duel I technically lost. And now you gotta wonder, like, what's he gonna do this next time around?
Yeah,
it's all building
that's
up
actually what I like about Jack Atlas is like, he's a bit of an asshole, but like it's very understandable as well. And also, and like we said in the Yugioh 5D's, he's part of the trifecta of good rivals. Like Jack Atlas is probably like part of the trifecta. Seto Kaiba, Revolver, and then you have Jack Atlas, which we'll go more into his character later. But I'm just gonna say he's a fucking Giga Chad.
Yeah, I think so.
He's incredible. In fact, that whole instance, I think that instance, Pete, that you mentioned is probably a great illustration of it because that decision in itself, even before we get further explanations of his backstory, tells you a lot about him because he isn't just interested in gaining the status of being the best, like the status of or seeming the best. He actually wants to be the best. He actually wants to freaking earn that, right?
Yeah.
And every obstacle he takes that as an opportunity to sort of improve himself, which kind of contrasts with the fact that he has to hold this appearance of being the unbeatable king to other people. That all what he does is more of a performance than he who he actually is. And I think that's like the route of his development, Where does Jack Atlas start and where does the king begin? That sort of thing.
Yeah, he has sensibilities, which I like, because I feel like, for any other two-dimensional boring ass antagonist would look at that replay that he saw and every other character would think that you clearly would have lost. And he would just be like, oh, I wouldn't. Nah, I'd win.
Yeah.
Nah, I'd win.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, well, this card, nah, I'd win. And
Oh
it's
my
just
god.
it is those grounded stakes that I really like. It is when I'm not a guy who likes to eat his steaks off the ground, but grounded steaks in an anime or a show, those can be pretty good, I think. And I like the idea of, nothing to knock, wanting to get your grandpa's soul back, nothing about, an evil, jaded Egyptian dude wanted to kill a pharaoh, nothing against, all this other kind of stuff about taking over the world and saving it with the power of friendship in card games. But it is cool to just have a very normal, non-supernatural kind of, conflict. And eventually we do get into the supernatural kind of stuff, before the first tournament is even over. And then we move on to some of the stuff about the signers and dark signers, which we'll talk about in a little bit once Bio gets back. But I think
this definitely, I think the grounded nature of that at the start of it definitely makes the high-end supernatural stuff more compelling later on, because it's just an acknowledgement of how weird things get.
And I guess before we talk about unless there was, because there is one thing about this arc of the show that I want to talk about that I kind of took issue with. I think I've been hinting at it, and I kind of want to talk about it before we move on to the dark side.
Sure, go ahead.
So it's the way that police handle. Yeah, the way that cops work. So, okay, I can, at least in comparison to everything else.
What you gonna do?
Listen, fuck the police getting down in the underground. Gotta press me because
oh my.
I love that fucking song, by the way.
But the first episode with Trudge, okay, duelist honor, that's a little, but okay, okay, so you want to have this kind of thing where you let him go just based on this kind of honor system that duelists share. Then you find out then that this is a regular thing, that dueling criminals is an actual thing that happens, and it's kind of weird to me, because I don't know why you would want to limit yourself to whether either side, whether you are the person being chased or you are the cop who is chasing them, why you would want everything to come down to who wins a card game is weird to me. So on the cops' part, they have this
gives
thing
them a fighting chance, okay?
So they have this thing where they can force you into a turbo duel. They can force your D-wheeler into autopilot, basically forcing it into it has to move along this kind of, this particular path and this particular distance from the person chasing you, because, you're dueling, and, there's got to be all this other kind of stuff that goes on in order for that stuff to happen, because obviously people cannot ride motorcycles and play card games at the same time. So what's weird to me is why wouldn't cops want to just, if you can force someone into an autopilot, if you can actually interfere with their bike, let's assume that for whatever reason they can't just remotely stop the bike entirely, they can force it into autopilot for some reason, but they can't for some reason also just stop it entirely. But why then at that point, once you have them relatively immobilized, at least relatively speaking, wouldn't you have other kinds of things to just stop their bike entirely, get a gun out and just shoot their wheel or something like that while they're not really able to move a whole lot? Throw something at their tires, friggin' just do something. You're gonna play a card game?
You activate my track card.
Yeah, just I think of that Kermit meme, but it's Yu-Gi-Oh! It's prepare to make, behold, the most powerful spell card of all. Are you ready to meet God? Just pulls out a gun. But then then this also goes for the criminal, because if you have a D-wheeler that has an autopilot, that makes you can be compromised by someone who can force you into a turbo duel. Why would you ride around on a D-wheeler, especially in a place where D-wheelers are already kind of illegal in the first place? I suppose if you're an escapee who's in the city, okay, that's one thing. But if you're just chilling out in the satellite and you happen to have a D-wheeler, why the hell would you have an autopilot function that the cops can interfere with by forcing you into a turbo duel? And this is there a way to possibly disable these kinds of functionalities from your D-wheeler? And obviously we're getting into the nitty-gritty kind of mechanics of what that works that we probably won't ever find out about. but it's just kind of silly to me.
I mean, what it could be, right, is it could be like a backdoor in their OS they can't exactly get rid of.
Yeah. I mean, I
It's
guess
like the
so,
backdoor
but then,
it's like the backdoor that Microsoft Windows uses to spy on us right now, you know.
Then disconnect the computer. You don't, like, your motor does not need a computer to run. Like, just don't even have the computer then. Just have, like, the
Listen, card games on motorcycles go burr, Pete. You gotta understand.
You're right. Okay.
I'm just saying, I wouldn't be surprised with, like, the programming, and because if you watch, like, the season 3 and 4, like, you see, like, you say, like, programming the fucking bikes and shit like that, so I wouldn't be surprised, like, the OS he had to use, or the common OSs for dual wheels have, like, some sort of backdoor that government or, like, corporate entities can exploit. I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, but, like, the thing is that he built his D-Wheeler, and that's the thing. And I mean, I guess unless there is just no way to find hardware that, you know, cannot be compromised that way, and I mean, the only way that you cannot be compromised that way is just to build a regular-ass motorcycle, without any of the computerized stuff, then I guess I can... Boo, boring. Yeah. Motorcycles, I sleep. Card games on motorcycles, real shit.
Real shit. Oh god.
Yeah, on the fuck, Nani? So yeah, it's just, but like, even still, there's a level of silliness to the idea of, and I mean, in fairness, this is in like pretty much all Yu-Gi-Oh series to an extent. So like, as much as I'm making a big
Yu-Gi-Oh!
Deal out of it,
Had a fucking vacuum cleaner that you felt bad for, so you know.
I like, as much as I'm making a big deal out of this is like this is standard for Yu-Gi-Oh, where, you know, you have like, you know, these really important things. People are like tied down. A chainsaw is going to cut you in half unless you win a card game or something like that. This has been around since G1. It's part of the show's charm. I still think it's silly.
Look, at this point, when it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh, I'm just like, fuck it, just enjoy the ride.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man. We wouldn't be complaining about this if this were like freaking Pokemon, would we?
Dude, Pokemon battles on motorcycles. Actually, Nintendo, get on that.
Oh,
yeah.
Man.
I mean, yeah, like, have you ride your Pokemon. That's got to be a thing where like two people, like Pokemon jousting or some shit like that. God, can you imagine?
I think there was an episode that actually had
I'm sure there is. There's been enough episodes of Pokemon.
I'm pretty sure I might have seen like some fan art of someone riding a Charizard in a battle.
But I also think that, like, you know, for as much as I complain about this thing that I really don't have that big a problem with in order for me to
No, it's fine. It makes this video interesting.
Yeah. Well, the thing I'm trying to get at is, like, for as much as I, you know, make a big deal out of that, I think this also comes from something I mentioned during the Zexal stream, that I think it would be cool if you just had, like, maybe, and I think that there was an episode where there really isn't any dueling and it just kind of focuses on characters. And I mentioned this in the Zexal one where I thought it would be cool if Kite encountered a number user, or whatever they're called, who just didn't want to duel him, and he was just trapped in like this kind of you know, timeless state, and Kite had to basically try to convince him to either duel him or, you know, just give him the card or some shit like that. And then you would learn a little bit more about like Kite just through the actions of like what he's willing to resort to in order for him to get what he wants. And I just think that like it would also be cool, you know, what exactly is necessarily wrong with having an episode where there really isn't any, you know, dual monsters. It's just they're trying to get away from the police, and there's maybe just a conflict that is just self-contained in the episode like that. And like, it's not, I suppose it's not a bad thing that, like,
granted, there were a couple ones like that.
Yeah,
though,
yeah, I won't say that.
Stretch that we watched.
Mm-hmm. And again,
there were
like,
at least a couple that are like that, you know.
Yeah, it's like, again, I sound like I'm complaining, but again, it is just the silliness that comes with Yu-Gi-Oh.
Anyway,
I will embrace that title and still enjoy Yu-Gi-Oh regardless.
I mean, if he wasn't a nitpicker, how could he cook the best myth in town? So, you know, they'll be very precise.
Oh my God.
I'm joking. Okay, so after the Jack Atlas duel and stuff like that, you know, Yusei gets taken to the fucking slammer. And what I also like about it is that, like, kind of slowly, there's some conspiracy shit going on, which also just makes it a lot more, which also makes it interesting because you find out that Yusei and Jack have these weird, like, birthmarks on their arms, and like, oh, what's that about? And then you have the symbolism of these dragons. I'm like,
what's going on here?
Nani?
Yeah. And it was cool too, because like this came up during the first duel with Jack. Jack, because before this, I don't even think that like we've, I think before then you might have seen like the wings on Jack's arm, and probably what crosses through a first time viewer's mind is like, oh, that's a neat tattoo. I guess that kind of makes sense. Guy who rides a motorcycle has a tattoo. It's a little, particular for
nothing out of
the
ordinary.
Yeah, and then you find out during the duel that it can summon a gigantic fucking dragon, and not just your usual kind of Yu-Gi-Oh dragon, a crimson dragon.
Yeah, that is so powerful. that is so powerful. It destroys the city's power grid.
Yeah, that kind of sprang. Oh, sorry. Did you want to say more about that?
Go ahead. No, go ahead. I had my piece talking about.
Yeah, I was about to say that, like, but before Pete ruins the fun again, guys, I'm sorry. I really apologize for this. So when after that point, we do get to another great set piece, a good string of episodes. Like, dude, there's literally just no bad episodes in these.
No, all these episodes are fucking bangers.
So we get Yusei trying to survive in prison, and what happens is that since he's in jail, his deck gets taken away. Obviously,
don't drop the deck. Don't drop your cards.
They meet up. Don't. God damn.
Yeah. Listen, I had to. Listen. You set that up. I just
no. Okay. Wait a minute. That says more about you than me, dog. Let's be honest.
So you say the slammer is the slammer like MC Hammer.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's in jail, right? And which is just so hokey, but also a real level of seriousness that's very much believable. So Yusei doesn't have his cards. And when another character who seems to know a little bit about what the dragon birthmarks are, gets kind of beaten in a duel by this basically sort of like the rookie crusher inside the prison, who ends up being a really cool guy. I don't remember his name in the dub.
Damn, Tonpa's in this anime?
I'll just use that.
I must have missed that. I was making a Hunter x Hunter joke. I said, Tonpa is in this anime?
Oh my god. No!
Okay, that one you did set up. You said Rookie Crusher.
Yeah.
Well, 2 for 2.
I didn't even think of that. I didn't even think of that when I said that.
Continue,
but yeah, he sort of just beats him in the duel and sort of insults his cards in the way he uses them, and because they're not like a super high powered, or they're not like freaking Black Wings. That is actually a cool archetype and objectively the best archetype in Yu-Gi-Oh. But let's not have that conversation. He has a sort of archaeology based deck, essentially, because that's his whole thing. And you say, much like most of the Yu-Gi-Oh protagonists, he really appreciates cards, but here it probably works almost the absolute best out of all of them, because dueling has been how Yusei was able to survive up to this point. And his philosophy is that he treats every card in his deck like a friend, which is silly, of course, but it's understandable just given the state of the world that he is in, right? So when somebody is, pee-poo-pooing on somebody's cards after a duel when they already won, he does the freaking, what was it? Not the Shaq meme, the Michael Jordan meme. He took that personally. So what he does is that he takes the guy's deck and he duels the Rookie Crusher guy himself, right? Proving essentially that it's not about the cards, it's about how you use them. Which I feel like this is probably the best way of doing that of any time when when Yu-Gi-Oh as a franchise does this, because it does this every once in a while in order to facilitate this point. But I think this is probably the best it's ever been done, especially given just how cool, not just naturally cool, but very, very compelling Yusei is.
It also
because the thing about
you
said, also he has that underdog factor. He has to struggle and scrap his way up to the top.
Exactly. Yeah, it reflects that general theme that they have going on in those early episodes, where you have the satellite is everybody's all judgmental about the satellite. The people there are just as much as the trash that they live amongst, or at least that's the general consensus. And then you have Yusei, who is basically here to prove that, he's trying to prove against that kind of general misconception. And it plays along with that general theme, the idea that like, oh yeah, these cards may look like trash, but like it's how you use them. It's the way that they're used. Chronomalies, I think, is what they're called in the game. I guess the card
chronomalies.
So I don't think they called them that in the show. I guess that must have been a show originals archetype, because it was weird that they didn't call them chronomalies in the anime, unless I missed that part.
I don't know. Whatever they are called, it's still apparent that in fact, it's also reflected in Yusei's own deck, which are the junks and the synchrons and shit, where it relies upon just getting different smaller numbers with, just a couple of effects that build up into synchro monsters that facilitate like big changes in the play, So it just further facilitating this theme in basically just every aspect of dueling, and in regards to like in terms of setting the stage for Yusei's characterization.
Yeah, I like the idea of having characters' decks reflect who they are.
Yeah,
or
you
even like
especially get that with like Jack Atlas, Yusei, and Crow.
Oh yeah,
he's yeah.
There was also a video essay. I can't remember. I think Kaiser, you linked some kind of video essay to me a while back. I don't remember exactly what was said, but like it goes into how like the boss monsters for some of the main characters kind of, or like their actual effects on the text kind of reflect their. Oh, that was you. Okay, yeah, and it was just kind of neat to see that, because it doesn't feel like there's a lot of that in other Yu-Gi-Oh stuff, or at least not that I've noticed anyways. And I like that, because it plays into like
it does
that
take a high IQ to understand Yu-Gi-Oh.
Because like even
higher IQ than to understand Rick and Morty, so
because even though it is one of those kinds of situations where there's like a slight disconnection between what I'm seeing and how the actual card game is played, because obviously in the card game there is a lot more about like how like there's a lot more value placed on like the cards that you have, and that while still using them can be a difference. Obviously, there's very little that you're going to do if someone's deck is just so much better than yours. But, I can ignore that just because of the way that they present these kinds of things in a way that is like, consistent with this theme that they have going on. And it's just cool. It's just cool.
In fact, it gets even better when at the climax of this arc, when he has this duel where he basically has to fight the warden of the prison in order to get out of prison. He takes all the different cards from every single prisoner in the prison in order to make us like a hard fought like slam dunk win against the warden. Like that's freaking cool.
He everyone else, all the other prisoners are coming together, and they are like, because if we're going by the rules that like your cards essentially reflect who you are as a character and as a person in the series, all these people are essentially giving him a piece of themselves, and he is using essentially the parts of these people who are at least viewed as worthless pieces of scum, and making something that is able to achieve great things. And I think that's cool. I like that general theme, I think it works for a Yu-Gi-Oh anime.
There's some of the things I kind of like about Yu-Gi-Oh is that like these decks reflect who these people are, and it makes you feel more like it helps give the characters like personality. It may like tell you things about them that isn't outright said.
Yeah, absolutely. And it fits with the whole struggle of the disparity between the rich and poor that is very played out in a lot of sci-fi series like this one. So I think it's definitely works well in its favor.
After he's let out of prison, because we find out like Rex Goldwyn's he's doing some stuff behind the scenes. Now Yusei's next quest is to get his motorcycle back.
Godwin's like, I have great plans for you. Yeah, sure, man. And where my motorcycle at? Yeah, I'm gonna let you finish, Mr. Godwin, but first give me my motorcycle.
Actually, dude, before we get into that scene where he's addressing all of the prisoners and stuff, like I swear to God, I literally got like freaking Palpatine vibes from that speech, because the dude is literally all like, "I love public security.
I am the city."
Yeah, he's about to like give his I love war speech. Through the years, I have experienced many forms of war. Just goes into like reading off the script from Team 4-Star. Suddenly develops a German accent out of nowhere.
We have to maintain a public order, you say. No bug for you. I can't do a German accent, I'm sorry.
It's fine. No bike for you.
Yeah, no bike for you.
Yeah, he's the bike Nazi.
No bike for you.
No bike.
So I love what you say does next. He's like, okay, you're not gonna give me my bike. You're not gonna give me my bike, dog. That's fine. I'll steal it back then, bitch.
Yeah, I'm gonna get it myself. Oh, I wasn't. Oh, did you think I was asking you for my bike? No, I'm telling you. That's what's going to happen.
and I love how Rex Goldwyn's just like, feel free to try.
Yeah. So I will.
Yep.
They're like a bunch of petty little 5-year-olds like walking out the door. It's like, fine, okay, you will. Yeah, okay. They're trying to get like the last word. But yeah, we will learn more about this mysterious Palpatine ass motherfucker later, because it's
I don't want to spoil it, but I fucking love Rex Goldwyn. Like, he's just great. Like, this fucking, when you find out what the fuck he's been doing behind the scenes, it's like, oh my god.
Yeah, just wow, I knew your name was Godwin, but god damn.
Anyway, so eventually he tries to get
feelings about how his character ended up, but the build up towards it is really
well, we can talk about this more about when we get to that and like the characters and shit like that, but like when it comes to Rex Goldwyn, I thought the ending in conclusion was a little bit messy, but like up to that point I was really enjoying his character. You know, a bit of this kind of like not exactly villain, kind of anti-hero, anti-villain type character if you really think about it.
You can never really figure out like what exactly was going on, because like you could tell that like even from the very beginning you think, oh, this guy's a bad guy because he's in charge of like the very task force that like keeps the satellite and down. This is the entire reason why Yusei and his friends are where they are, all that kind of stuff. So you think that he's a bad guy, and then like you see that he actually does some things that actually help people out. Like after Yusei won that duel against the warden, like we were talking about, Godwin is the reason why Yusei was able to get out, because he's like, nah, warden, you made a deal, you're gonna let him go. At least I think that was what was happening. But like there's definitely it is just, and like even when he's helping our heroes, there is always like this aura of like you don't know what exactly he's up to, what exactly he's doing.
Yeah, and you don't exactly know what his full intentions
are. Like the fact that he kind of let Yusei, like the fact that he lets Yusei get tortured while he's in the prison. Dude, I fucking remember. Dude, I was watching that and I was like, dude, how the hell did they get around this in the dub? What did they do?
They didn't have it
because
it wasn't there. That was a new scene as far as I was aware. Because that, like when I was watching that, I was like, oh shit, I don't remember this when I was a kid. So yeah, that was just like that entirely, and like maybe they I want to say that they just cut to like throwing him in in his cell and just saying, oh yeah, we beat the shit out of you. That's what happened.
Yeah, but that's the thing of Rex Goldwyn is that even though when he's helping like quote unquote helping our heroes out, you don't know what exactly his intentions are. Like is it benevolent, is it malevolent, is it like a mix of all three? And you don't really find out until like we get to like the Dark Signer arc. But that's what I like about Rex Goldwyn is that he kind of always keeps you guessing.
Yeah, like it's another, even like early on, just simple things like how he seems to have invested interest in Jack being where he is socially, but at the same time doesn't seem to be too bothered when Jack eventually loses by the end of the tournament. And I mean, by then you kind of find out that the tournament was all set up just for other purposes that we will get
trust
that we'll talk about exactly. And
I'm just going to say this right now though, as an introductory villain,
he's good.
He's probably the best in Yu-Gi-Oh aside from Pegasus.
I think so. I do have some questions about how
about Revolver, is he also good?
If we're counting him, then Yu-Gi-Oh reigns.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if we're counting Revolver though, then like Revolver is definitely up there. Probably better than Pegasus. Maybe
okay.
Than
This might be
Godwin, simply because of
nostalgia
where it ends
talking.
up.
Okay, I would say Pegasus is probably like maybe number 3. Rick's Goodwin's maybe like number like it's okay. I think it's a tie between like Revolver and Rick's Goodwin because like they're just so fucking good.
Yeah, they're really good.
There is one.
Anyway, enough
maybe a couple
fanboying, but go ahead.
There are maybe a couple questions that I have about Rex's motivations and like his decisions when getting all the signers together that we'll talk about later. But it might have been answered and I might have zoned it out because some of the later episodes I kind of tuned out a little bit. So you guys, like, if I become a little bit more quiet later on because I'm not remembering some of the things correctly. I mean, this is like I'll take like whatever criticism you have for me, but I was not personally a big fan of the Dark Signer arc. It was nothing about it specifically that bothered me. It was just I liked the really grounded stuff of the conflict with the tournament and Yusei wanting to get his card back.
This is the part where we cut to commercial break and we move on with the rest of the freaking video without Pete in it.
You will have a non-supernatural Yu-Gi-Oh anime and you will be happy.
This is where I take a plane trip to America and Heisenberg just mysteriously goes missing. I'm curious.
Yeah, listen, nothing wrong with it. It was just not my.
Look, we understand, but we'll get to that when we get to it. So anyway,
we'll get to it.
After like doing some trespassing, he meets his buddy Officer Trudge again. They fight, and then he gets like badly. I think he has a really nasty crash, and he gets rescued by these 2 twins, in the tops, and just like you say, one of these twins also has a weird fucking birthmark.
And Luca. My bad.
Yeah,
that's it.
Or I don't think that was their names in the sub, but yeah, it was. I forget what their names were.
No, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Lua and Luca in the sub at least. I'm pretty sure.
Really? Oh, I guess it was.
I think.
Okay, I thought that their names were different in the sub than it was in the dub.
Yeah. I don't think it's very much to talk about like Officer Trudge. Just another rematch of like and Yusei just committing more like minor acts of larceny. Oh yeah, I forgot that like these next couple episodes are just him like running into like meeting interesting characters and running into like more signers because we shouldn't call him that, but more people with this mysterious birthmark shit.
Yeah. One of the people he runs into, I did not expect because I legitimately forgot about this guy, but who actually ended up being a pretty decent side character is this guy named Saiga.
Oh yeah, he's great.
And who is basically he's like an illegal off-jobs guy / info broker / basically just does anything for a quick buck. Essentially, he is just that dude that has his hands in a whole lot of different things.
Yeah, he's
which
very,
makes
like,
sense
very
in a
talented,
world like
actually.
this.
Okay, I was right.
Yeah,
I'm not crazy.
Like
sorry, just real quick. So their Japanese name, their subtitle names were Rua and Ruka, which I mean, I guess if
Rua and Ruka. I'm
not
okay.
The differing names
You're not
is due
crazy,
to the Japanese.
Pete. We understand.
Yeah, so from what I'm reading, the different. Sorry, I didn't mean to like interrupt you. I just felt like it was going crazy. Sorry, continue.
No, it's okay. But like, yeah, he meets this guy, and basically I love the set pieces, like the one where they just get into his office. It's so very dark, but everything's still pretty detailed. Very, very. I guess I never seen Blade Runner, but it seems like something that would be in Blade Runner aside from the lack.
I've seen Blade Runner, and yeah, it would be.
Okay,
5D's, the cyberpunk Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah. I mean, legitimately,
it
kind of is, especially how things are like later on. And it's 1984. It's like, okay. But what was it? So Saiga's whole deal is that he doesn't really trust anybody else, or he has this whole thing as he just can't trust anybody else because he doesn't rely upon others very often, or doesn't really chase dreams very often because he made a mistake when he was a duelist. Like it's sort of like a tag team duelist. He had his best buddy and he just kind of screwed him over in order to try to this is actually really cool because usually in these plot lines it's like the main person affected did not do the betrayal, but it's actually the reverse worse this time. This guy is the one who fucked up and basically caused the car crash that either it killed his friend or nearly killed him. But actually, no, it was nearly killed him. But the fact that they even risked that the whole time was just crazy. And because of that, he couldn't really forgive himself. So he kind of just projects this whole thing about like, oh, you know, he can't trust people on the others. And I forget the actual like route the dialogue went, but Yusei and his dialogue during that time was really, really cool. You know, just this weirdly serious scene that actually works really well.
Yeah, what's great about it is I don't think like I think with the episode of Striker, there's no duels. It's like you do get a couple episodes in Yugioh 5D's where there are actually no duels, and it's just characters like talking about shit.
Yeah,
and like I actually really like that because it's like it's really serious.
One. Yeah, and I think it sets the page of just like how people sort of just act in this environment that is Neo-Domino City. You know, like people getting manipulated and taken advantage of by others that are just, it's sort of like, what I like about it is that everyone is a little bit like Yusei. Yusei is the underdog in all of us that wants to achieve what we want to, or you know, basically spread the joy with others. We want to achieve our dreams or do whatever. Like Jack wants to be the best and earn his place as the best, but it is the rest of the world that sort of corrupts or takes advantage of these intrinsic aspects of who these people are in order to maintain itself in some way, or because, you know, basically sets the standard that you gotta get, it doesn't matter how you get ahead if you just do. And I think this is a great through line for for just where the show goes and how the character development is treated. It makes it much more compelling when the characters
I mean, that's a theme that
it's very
shows up
consistent too.
Yeah, like that's a theme that shows up throughout the entire show. Like even in season 3, like that's a theme that also shows up when, you know, we get a bit more into like Crow's backstory about how he got that bike, how he got that bike in the first place. So, you know, like that's why I like that. Like the show has a lot of themes to it. But anyway, after like Strager, and after he meets the twins, I think he meets that's where he meets like Aki, the psychic duelist.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, one of the best duels in the franchise happens.
Yes,
during
I think so. Yeah, there's a lot, like even among, like I think it's pretty universally understood among fans of 5Ds that Aki is, or like pretty much the arc surrounding her is great. One of, if not the best story in the anime, isn't it? Yes. That's what I understand it is generally.
Well, I wouldn't say it's like, it's definitely one. I think most people consider it one of the best in the anime. When they say that, they're particularly talking about the first duel that she and Yusei had. I think, especially since it's the one that is least corrupted by the dub, it seems.
Well, I wasn't just talking about the duel. I was just talking about like her story in general.
Yeah, she is universally praised by pretty much everyone, except for, you know, when you get further in, apparently past this point. But
like, would you say that it's
video for another time?
But would you say it's the best, or like, I mean, that's fine if not. I'm just kind of curious now. If you don't think it's the best,
that is a very good question. I think for this season alone, I think it is definitely one of the best. It is very much up there. I feel honestly, I think all of the arcs in the show, at least in the season that we watched, are really good. I get to the point where you can just pretty much take your pick as to which one is your favorite, to be honest. Yeah. And I wouldn't be mad at you.
Yeah, and there's definitely a lot to, you know, talk about Aki's arc. And I definitely have like some things to say about it too, but we'll get to that once we get a little bit more into like her backstory and such.
Yeah, but I just want to say, like, she's fucking cool, and also Black Rose Witch is a cool fucking nickname, epithet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they play into that shit a whole lot. Yeah.
It's actually kind of funny. When I was in elementary school, back when like 5Ds was airing, we were making like these little toy boats that we were racing each other, and you had to give them like a name, basically. Like you christened this ship the SS Buttfart or whatever, and my team called ours the Black Rose, just because that was the arc that they were on at the time.
All right, and that's great. I wish I was in your school, man.
Yeah, I was just like, I thought the idea of psychic duelists was kind of interesting. Like, you have these people that make the card fix real. I thought that was kind of interesting. Why or how they can do that, I have no clue. But I guess, I mean, there's magic in Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds.
Listen, they're new types. types, okay? Deal with it.
Yeah, new types.
Their souls are not weighed down by gravity or cardboard, okay?
Like,
Bio?
honestly, like, it's one of those kinds of things where, so at least as far as like superpowers, I'm honestly kind of fine with the idea that like you have psychic powers, but only when you like play a card game or when you are like playing cards on a dual disc or something like that. I like, for as much as I've talked about the cops chasing people through with card games, that's something that I think I can get behind. The idea of like,
because
it has
you can
fairly
get the freaking.
well, yeah.
You can...
Well, now listen. Hold on, I'm not done yet. Because I'm not going to say that there aren't some things I have to say about that. Are we going to talk about this now? Because I thought we were going to wait a little bit longer until we were going to talk about it. But, like, just as far as a quote-unquote magic system, you have monsters that you can summon and spells that you can cast by playing cards. Like, that to me, that's... Yeah. I think you can make that consistent. That, like, in a vacuum, and I think even just in terms of just its execution alone, that as a magic system, I think is fine. I think that, like, the only thing that you could maybe question about it are, like, its usages or when it's not used. But even then, I don't think that there were, like, a whole lot of times where I was like, oh, why isn't Aki doing this thing with when she can, like, make, monsters?
That's never really happened.
There might have been one time, but I can't quite remember. Or if it ever did happen, I don't think it really crossed my mind for that long, so it must not have been that important. Like, the system itself alone. However, there are some things that I have some questions about, not even like concerns, but just questions about in relation to her history as the Black Rose Witch. But we'll get to that once we actually talk about like her backstory. Anyways, Bio, you were, if you want to continue giving us your wonderful summary of this amazing show.
So after they meet the Black Rose, they all get invited to the Fortune Cup, and Yusei gets invited with a literal gun to his head because Godwin's like, oh, if you don't attend, tragic what's gonna happen to you. Oh man, I just can't guarantee your friend's safety. Really weird, right? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Those are some nice friends you have there.
Yeah.
Something happened to them.
I just love how Goldwyn's like,
listen,
your real shame if you didn't show up to this tournament and your friend just
no, wouldn't it be funny if like it would be funny if like Yusei just was not someone who understood like implications of things, and he's just hinting at this as would be bad if something happened to your friends. He's like, I suppose so. No, I don't think you're getting what I mean. I mean, something bad could possibly happen to them. It's like, I mean, I guess so, but I don't think so. They're pretty fun. No. I mean,
that sounds like an abridged series joke. That sounds like an abridged series joke right there, man.
Write that down.
Honestly, I might talk about this later, but a bunch of friends of mine were thinking of doing like an abridged. I was doing a little voice acting for a friend's project of mine, and I was thinking of doing like find a series for a bridge. We could do Yugioh 5D's abridged, where Rex Goldwyn is being like as direct as ever, and the protagonist isn't getting it. Like, what do you mean my friend's in danger? Nah, they're fine. I'm like, no, you say you're not getting it. Ugh, like, do I have to spell it out to you?
Well, that's like the best thing about like a bridge series. I feel like that's a staple of good abridged series is like you have the antagonists who are like fairly sophisticated and smart, and you have like the protagonists who are really stupid and dumb. You got like your Goku, who's really this really dumb guy. Frieza is just like, how the fuck is this Neanderthal kicking my ass? And then he's just like, I have terminal brain damage. Sorry, I didn't mean to go on that tangent.
It's fine. Okay, talking about the Fortune Cup, I think for the most part, I liked most of the duels. I like also the rematch of Yusei and Aki as well. As a pretty good duel as well.
That was fantastic.
Oh yeah, and also setting up the stuff again, like we were talking about how Godwyn isn't entirely how he seems. We also find out that he had some connection to a fucking village that got nuked off the map.
Yeah. Let me go. What was this guy's name? What was this dude's name? Because I don't remember. I remember
Bomber.
Yeah, Bomber. I fucking love that dude. So when people find out that Yusei's a satellite dude, Bomber just shows up, drops his mixtape on the crowd, and everyone just claps. Like, the dude's a Chad.
Yeah, he stood up for the guy. Like, you legitimately just like, he's a dude that wants to challenge himself in duels, but he has way more scruples in regards to what he's doing.
I mean, there's even a scene where I think one of the twins breaks into his garage, and he doesn't beat him up or anything like that. He just picks him up and brings him back to Yusei. Says this yours?
Yeah, basically.
I believe this belongs to you. Just drops the kid on the floor, then leaves.
With no elaboration.
Hi there.
Yeah,
This is
basically.
yours.
Doesn't elaborate. Doesn't elaborate.
Yeah, exactly. This is your problem. Drops it, leaves.
Not mine.
Never speaks of this again. And he, like, Bomber, I think, was kind of interesting. As much as I didn't think that he was, I mean, like, he wasn't a bad character, obviously.
I think
For
he's
as
a
much
cool
as I didn't
character.
think, yeah, he wasn't like an amazing character, but he definitely added like that extra bit of mystique to Godwin, in the sense that, like, you know, well, not only that, but in the sense that Bomber then eventually went to go join the Dark Signers, the villains of the Dark Signer arc.
Actually, before you should try and mention the attempted assassination on Goodwin, by the way.
Yeah, so yeah, because
Dude,
it's because
crazy.
Godwin.
Yeah,
blew up
that was
his
fucking.
village.
I'm like, there's no fucking way, no fucking way. Oh my god, he's actually doing it. And everyone's like, let him cook, let him cook,
Yeah.
let him cook.
So,
Like the absolute insanity.
so
how
let me
the
tell you-
hell this guy? I mean, like, it was amazing. Like, holy shit! How did you do that? Fucking base Chad. Like, he cuts off a like spike on the end of his wheel, and it just happens to fly perfectly in Godwin's direction. It's like, this is a show about people playing card games on motorcycles,
That
and like
was
that is the most
crazy.
amazing.
Yeah, I mean, if we ever had a Yu-Gi-Oh show where one of the participating decided to assassinate the fucking dude who's running it, like, I don't think so.
These people don't fuck around, man.
Yeah,
these
like-
guys don't fuck around. This is life or death. Okay,
Exactly.
like, because the thing
He's
was,
trying to assassinate
that Bowman
like a government
didn't
figure,
know.
man. That's kind of
He
base.
didn't know. Yeah, he didn't know. All right, let me set the stage for your audience right now. So Bowman, it's not Bowman. Bomber's whole thing is that he's working with Godwin, because he says that, oh, if you do this for me, I will send support back to your village. Yes, no backstabbing, evil purposes involved, I assure you.
Yeah.
And Bomber is going through with that. He fought Yusei, but I mean, well, he was going to fight Yusei and everything. But before that, he found out that Godwin blew up his village. And after he lost to Yusei, he basically made a whole ass call out to the entire audience, even showing video proof that Godwin blew up the city, or I mean, that his village, or at least that the village was blown up along with his family. Like, there were actual deaths involved in this. I really want to hammer that home here, people.
Yeah, people
People
died.
die in
Yeah.
this anime. People fucking die. And this mad lad, just took to his giant D-wheel. That's not a D-wheel. That's a motor. That's like a monster truck. Okay? So he takes that bitch around the vehicle, getting faster and faster to try to ram his ass right towards Godwin at like the big tower in the middle of the stadium. And even when Yusei blocked him from doing it because, oh, you can't do this, that's wrong. Well, I'm not gonna make him seem that unhinged, because it makes sense. But like, a piece of the wheel came off, was about to hit Godwin, but Godwin just chads up, grabs the freaking drill wheel thing at the end of it, the spikes that was spinning around, revealing he has a fucking robot arm. And throws that shit in the trash.
It's like, yeah,
Okay, like, there's a couple of
Nice
highlights
try.
in this Fortune Cup. Obviously, like, the Aki thing, the Bomber shit, and the Jack shit. But, like, the Bomber shit is just like, holy shit. Like,
he's like,
I did not expect that.
Bomber's the kind of guy you would expect to see in like a biker gang.
dude, he probably runs a biker gang after the show.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, he's like, fuck it.
Well, I
I
mean, he's
wouldn't.
dead now. Spoilers.
Damn, spoilers, Pete.
We'll get to it.
Okay, we'll talk about the Jack Atlas thing in a bit, but I just want to go back to the Aki fight. I thought it was a pretty cool duel. I don't like the dub where they made it seem a lot more like romantic though.
God, I watched a little bit of. I watched the same duel in the dub because I was curious.
Oh yes.
And I was like, God damn it.
Yeah,
Fucking
he's
four
like,
kids.
I just
Okay,
couldn't
here's
stop
what
laughing.
okay, here's what fucking
Four
like he said.
kids. You just bring
Okay,
my fist
like, here's the thing.
just shake
forms
my
of media
fist.
consumption when you are so utterly bewildered by a scene taking place that there are so few things that make sense about it that you don't have words and you simply laugh.
Yes. Okay, I'm just gonna say that like I like the sub version because he's actually trying to like do appeal her as a person.
Yeah.
In the dub, it's like he's fucking kicking game,
Yeah.
and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? You say?
He's trying to freaking early 2000s Rizura.
Okay. Speaking of that, I know there's like a scene where he's like with Martha and she's like she's in that coma. We'll get this to the dark side arc, but I like when in the sub, Martha's like, "Oh come on, you say stop brooding and go save your future wife." So
Yeah. I love Martha.
No, but
Martha's
I
best.
love her.
Martha's
She's
great.
She's great.
Okay, we'll go more to the dark
why
side.
did I say,
Listen.
why did I say that name?
Why did you say that name?
Because I
think
don't
she's-
know, guys.
Listen, that was the okay. When it came to like Akiza and Yusei, it was just like they push their friends, but like, but Martha's just like, nah, we all know how it is. Because like, listen, in the sub, it's a bit more subtle that he might or have something for her, but like in the dub, they have like it's like he's fucking kicking game. I'm like, Yusei, what are you doing, my boy?
Yeah, what are you trying to do here, dog? Like, I get early 2000s. You can't if you want to push the sort of like subplot in there. It was sort of like the thing to do, but like, come
Listen,
on, man.
in
Why
the
it has
sub,
to be at the very cost?
Why
it has to be at the cost of this great conflict that they have? This duel is so fucking.
It's great, and it tackles like a lot of themes. Like Aki feels like isolated. She feels alone. She's being manipulated by this fucking cult. And here's like you say, trying to like, it's like, hey, I can be a friend too. You don't have to push me out. Like I'm not afraid of you. But like in the dub, it's like almost like
even if we can't be friends, you aren't happy just throwing out your anger towards others, right? Like that.
Yeah, and I think that
just makes you twisted. That changes you.
Yeah, and that's what I liked about the subversion is that like it takes it seriously, and also like just talking about that little subplot thing. Like here's the thing, they didn't even like hint at that until like maybe like the Dark Signer arc, or when Martha like just calls Yusei and she's like, yeah, go ahead and save your future wife, and you say, stop brooding about card games. I want grandchildren. You say, and even like Aki's parents is like, yes, finally a worthy son-in-law.
I love Martha. Like she makes Jack do his.
Oh my god! Okay, save it for the Dark Signer arc because that's amazing.
Yeah, we'll save that one. That's really good.
Martha really, she's just the mom of the group. Like you have all these brooding, edgy teenagers, and she's just the one person who can see through their facade because like she
Martha, it's not a phase. Shut up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's not a phase. Leave me alone.
Not a phase. Jack, you say his card back. Martha, I'll only give back Stardust Dragon if you can beat me, and it just grabs him by the ear. Ow!
I surrender, Martha. Alright, I'll give it back.
Yeah, I'm sorry. They've like gone through the same song and dance as children. Oh god, I want to see that now. Fucking Martha.
Exactly.
Listen, Martha could solo the Dark Signer arc, which she's too busy, like, taking care of children.
Well, yeah, she could if she didn't. Well, we'll talk about that in the Dark Signer arc.
Yeah.
We'll get
I'll be back in a second, but anyway, I just want to mention, the rematch between Jack Atlas and fucking Yusei was great. So amazing.
I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, round 2 was fantastic. Round 2 their second fight was great.
And I like how it's pretty much the culmination of everything else that Godwin has been gathering all these signers for. So I guess I don't think we talked about it just yet, but so obviously,
by this point in the show, it's basically revealed anyways. So let's just spell it out for the audience.
Yeah, so Godwin has been getting together all the signers, and did we mention what signers were people who essentially could like summon this Crimson Dragon. Basically, is that they were 5 people
they're like reincarnations. They're like reincarnations of this Crimson Dragon god, basically. Of like the duelists that act as its heralds against the Dark Signers, which plan to destroy the world.
Basically,
typical
a bunch
Yugioh
of Mesoamerican kind of like reincarnations. These people who could summon and control the Crimson Dragon, and in essence, Godwin wanted to bring together all the signers so that he could I forget. So it had something. to summon the dragon, but then there was also like some other stuff about like getting energy from it. And I don't remember how the sub presented it. I know that like the dub had like this weird thing that it was like, oh, you can power the world just by playing a card game or some shit like that.
No, you think about the inner D reactor.
They,
don't worry
they
about
didn't.
that.
They weren't trying to do that.
Yeah, not
they,
the sub.
They weren't trying to do that necessarily. So so on the outset, Godwin simply wanted to gather the signers by bringing them each together in the tournament. Because he knows that the Dark Signers will be coming
soon,
right? Because they were like sealed in these, again, these Mesopotamian like the Nazca lines that represents each of the different ones. So each signer gets like resurrected after they Dark Signer gets resurrected into a Dark Signer after they die. Essentially, when they have like enough hate in their heart or whatever, and they basically just all plan to destroy the world, which is what Godwin is trying to avoid, seemingly, which is why he just brings all the signers together.
Allegedly.
Yeah, we gotta fact check that.
Allegedly, that's ignorant.
Allegedly.
Fact check.
Yeah,
Red
like
Skull does want to save the world. Well, listen, fact checkers confirmed this.
Yeah, like everyone suddenly like out of nowhere just warms up to Godwin because they think that he's such a good guy, and like it's actually kind of bothering him a bit, and he has to correct them. It's like, allegedly, and I'm still kind of morally gray. Look, I blew up a fucking village. Oh, that footage was fake.
Dude, I love how he managed to skirt those allegations afterward.
Yeah.
By the way, I love that.
Like at the same time though, like he controls the whole city. He's in charge of like security everywhere. So I mean, I suppose it makes sense. But
listen,
yeah,
all I gotta say is he beat those allegations better than Seth the fucking program.
The footage was doctored. It was altered. The village is still there if you go back there. These are slanderous lies. This is fake news.
They just confirmed it.
Listen, okay, they picked up. They sold their houses and moved. Okay, they sold their houses and moved away from those mountains.
Yeah,
hypothetically. Let's say hypothetically that this village was gone.
Yeah.
What's going to stop them from selling all their houses and move?
Oppenheimer assured me that the test was completely clear of any and all life. No villages were harmed in the making of this bomb, except maybe the satellite. That might have been our fault. But that's fake news too. We'll talk about that too, I guess.
We'll get to that in a little bit.
There's a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
like just within
Jack and
I love the Future Vision thing with like the satellite on fire and this giant fucking spider mark like almost burned into it. It's so fucking cool. Like it's such a rad. Like apparently they dueled so hard they teleported to like an alternate dimension and they disappeared.
I don't even know how that works, but
like
Crimson Dragon magic.
I mean, basically like their duel was so intense, which it was, even like play wise, it was really good.
Very back to back. It reminds me of like Yusaku and
duel...
Playmaker. I mean Yusaku and Revolver.
Yeah. I mean basically, this is like a precursor to that.
I do have to wonder though where like their cards came from, because it seems like, and I mean maybe this is just one of those kinds of things where it's like it's Yu-Gi-Oh, just don't think about it, but like it's heavily implied that each of these characters, dragons,
the dragon card,
the dragons, is that it's heavily implied that like their main connection with the Crimson Dragon comes from like the cards that they have, and that like they're because the Crimson Dragon is summoned when they summon their dragons. So you have Yusei Stardust Dragon, you have Jack Atlas's Red Dragon Archfiend, you have Aki's
ancient fairy dragon,
which we'll get to eventually.
Black Rose Dragon,
and Power Tool Dragon.
no, Life Force Dragon. That's next season though. That's next season though.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess I question, because like each of these dragons were actually like there way back when like the original signers fought the Dark Signers, or at least that's what we saw in the flashbacks and stuff. So I mean, I wonder if like
I think what it is, right, is that like if you have that mark, the cards will find you.
I guess so. It's just kind of
they're like the behemoth from Berserk. They're like
Godwin did it, right?
Well, here's my question then. Like, what about copies of those cards? Like, are these cards unique? Are they like so rare that these are the only? Okay. I mean, okay. It just wow. Like think about that. Those cards are as rare as any one of the gods. Like, think about how much they're worth. I mean, like, I guess it's just kind of weird that's never
come from a god. They did come from
like God created what? Wait, what? When was this? A god?
Listen,
God created
when God created the universe, on the seventh day he made Yu-Gi-Oh
cards.
About
the Crimson Dragon.
Oh no, I meant like. Well, I'm talking.
Yeah, I'm talking about the Crimson Dragon created the card.
The cards? I thought. I mean, I guess I just assumed that like the actual cards themselves, because I just assumed that like they were cards kind of like anything else, like they were made by Pegasus or they were printed or something like that. They just happen to be like the only. Yeah, I don't know, man.
No, I'm pretty sure like they said like the cards like the the dragon cards existed back when the original battle against with the Crimson Dragon against the Lord of the Underworld.
So like they actually had like,
or like maybe the monsters turned into the cards. Maybe I don't know.
Well, that's what I thought, was that like it was kind of like how ancient Egypt inspired Pegasus to make duel monsters, is that I assumed that it was kind of like that, where you had the original dragons and then that inspired the cards. It was just the question of like, are these kind of like the only copies of these cards? Because that seems like something that is never really touched upon, that these cards are literally so rare. People either must have heard of them or they must have never, and like that's not a problem or anything. It's just kind of like weird that something like that.
I mean, I kind of think this like the dragon cards are kind of like the Behelit from Berserk. Like if you're destined to become a signer, it will just end up in your hands eventually.
I guess so.
Yeah.
I mean, like again, it's just one of those kinds of things. It's
that's
just like
Godwin
it crosses my mind, but it doesn't really affect anything, I suppose. Because like, could you imagine someone else who just happens to find a Stardust Dragon in his booster pack, but it's not the Stardust Dragon that makes them a signer?
Yeah.
Anyways, that's
I mean,
enough.
apparently they've changed hands from different duelists. So different duelists have had those cards before. They just ended up in each of the main heroes' hands eventually.
I guess so. And I mean, clearly having them isn't enough to like be that particular signer. Well, I mean, not only like that because Jack had Stardust Dragon, but also because you can then have dragons that weren't even there way back then that can make you a signer. With Crow.
Okay, I think that's a little bit bullshit, because like I don't think you need to be a signer to be a relevant character.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I kind of I agree with you in that.
Another time.
I agree with you in that sense. I thought that like that the concept itself made sense, because the whole idea of like them just happening to have the one specific copies of these cards that like correlated to like those dragons, or that they all just happened to be here in the same city, these one of a kind cards. I don't know. Maybe this is just more of a me kind of issue than anything. I thought that the idea that like you didn't necessarily have to have the dragons corresponding to those, the cards corresponding to those dragons to, get them. I don't even know what I'm talking about. It's maybe just a personal kind of thing. All right. Enough of me like ranting and ruining 5Ds for everyone.
Yeah, let's talk about the Jack and Yusei fight. It is really good. Like, like along with being sort of like all the culmination of the what was it? The Godwin stuff, but just everything having to do with Yusei and Jack's rivalry in general, because we find out up to this point that Jack, even though he and Yusei were friends and they grew up together, he has always been like very, very ambitious, right?
Yeah, it's almost kind of like a Griffith, like it's almost like a like Jack Atlas is kind of like similar to like a Griffith situation, right, where he comes from very like humble and small beginnings, but like he has like this grand ambition.
Yeah, and he's just not. I guess he just wasn't as like satisfied with simply being a part of this group, being friends with these people and everything. Like that was not enough for him. So that when he got like that opportunity by betraying Yusei, he really goddamn took it. And the best part is that the show shows that he did regret, at least in some ways, he regretted that decision, especially after this duel.
But also, and also at the same time, it also shows you like, would you blame him if he didn't take that opportunity? Would he have ever left like Satellite?
Yeah, I mean, it is.
Would he have gotten like a better life there?
I think it has a little bit more to do with like just his general pride than wanting to get out of there. That was certainly a part of it. But yeah, like you can definitely understand where he was coming from, and And, you know, whether or not you sympathize with him or not, it makes sense for like his motivations to do that. And that's like, what else could you really ask of like a character? Is just, you know, have motives that make sense and follow from who they are and their background.
Yeah, in fact, from what we see of a little bit of their backstory, I think on some level, a little bit of like jealousy was involved with Yusei as well. Because even though, and the show was, the sub anyways, is really subtle about this, it seems like. Because even though, like, yeah, Jack has the ambition and like he always had a lot of the similar friends that Yusei had, they weren't drawn to him. They weren't like, he didn't meet them because of himself. They meet him through Yusei. Yusei gathers these people. He draws these people towards them. They feel compelled because of just his general like spirit and resilience and his ingenuity. Like he's the one who decided to, you know, make the D wheel and, you know, use the Stardust Dragon in order to, you know, win duels and things like that. It feels like, because it's a very, very specific decision. I mean, like, he could have just taken the D wheel if he wanted to, and that'd be done and over with. But the fact that he just pulled a double whammy and took Stardust Dragon along with it, it can mean either one of two things. Either A, he was in some way a little bit jealous of Yusei, which would be interesting on its own, or B, he understands what he's doing is wrong, and he's kind of low-key hoping that by doing this, like, Yusei would get back at him, and like either they would have a you know, a cool duel out of it for the sake of pride after all and all that, or simply because he feels that he kind of has it coming in some way.
Yeah,
you know?
I think the first out of those two is probably the more likely of the two. But I could also see that the second option also being a possibility. I just have to rewatch some parts, because you can tell that he clearly wants a second chance at dueling Yusei. Like the guy was just straight up waiting for him when he got there in Neo Domino. Like he fucking knew where he was gonna be before, like, exactly. Like he fucking knew, because like, of course, and I mean, it's not even just he knew that the only.
I mean, to be fair, in this case, it makes the most sense because Yusei took the same route that he did
exactly
all those years ago. Yeah,
exactly. So he would know where he'd come out. And so like there is that anticipation, and I think that he wanted to have that like second, even though he had already beaten Yusei in a duel once before. I think this time, after he had betrayed him, I think he wanted like that that double tap just for, you know, that added to really hammer things home that he is the superior one between the two of them. I think that's the reason why he took Stardust, because like he gives Stardust back almost right away. Because like it's clear that Stardust never really even mattered to him. He didn't even use Stardust in his duels.
He never even uses it. He never even uses it. No.
Exactly.
Stardust is basically just bait. Stardust is bait.
Stardust is fake news. Oh, but
sorry, it's fake news. But like that's what's really great about that is that like it also, hold on, let me try to think this over a little bit. What I find really interesting about that is the fact, so he and Yusei sort of like had a bit of an ideological difference, it seemed like, as well, before you know, he left the satellite to go Neo Domino, where I remember this line of dialogue in the past, I believe, where it was about how, remember what I said before about how Yusei sees, you know, his cards as friends and shit like that. I think that was sort of like one of the major things they sort of disagreed about, because Jack's whole thing is about, you know, you gotta rely upon your own strength, you can't rely upon others. And I think that in a way was just him trying to, like, the first duel they had prior to the story beginning, when Jack originally left, or at least before he left, was like Jack initially sort of just rejecting his own philosophy, and the whole thing about wanting to wait for Yusei to come back at him, it's more so just getting that extra satisfaction that's all like, okay, I'm at the top now, I have built myself up, I basically became, you know, the best duelist in the world, everyone recognizes me, so I'm going to, for all to see, for only me to see, I'm going to prove that my way of thinking is right. And I think that's really cool. Base Jack.
Base Jack. basically, yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of what makes
Yeah,
Jack
and
part
with
of
the second duel, it's really great.
It's pretty intense. Now, any more we have to say about the Jack and Yusei stuff before we continue on to the best arc in Yukio 5Ds?
I got nothing. Yeah, let's talk about Divine.
Yeah,
and all that other psychic dueler
Oh my.
stuff. So,
Okay,
dude, speaking of that.
Okay, the Dark Signer arc has a
Go
lot of
ahead,
shit
Bio,
going
go
on. Okay,
ahead,
the
Bio.
Dark Signer arc has a lot of shit going on. We'll talk about some of like the major stuff. But I just want to mention, obviously Jack loses and shit like that. But I just want to mention that the best named character in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! History 5Ds, and I think Kaiser, you have a screenshot of this dude. Okay, what's his name? Dick Pitt. Yes.
Oh right, hold on a second. Dick Pitt.
Oh,
the greatest villain in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! 5.
Oh
Hold on,
no!
I pinned it.
Not Dick Pitt.
I might have it as the
His
thumbnail for this
worst
video, by the
enemy.
way.
And like he's the first duel. He is like the first what was it? Like Dark Signer person that Yusei fought after it. And where we get introduced to his second main theme. Which, can I just say, the music, we got robbed with 4Kids, motherfuckers, okay?
Yes.
The OST for Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds is so good. In fact, I know people gush over like Yusei's second theme. Look up Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's OST entitled Yusei Fudo. Not Yusei's theme, Yusei Fudo. This one is better. This one came first. This one's fucking fire. Okay? But the Dark Signer stuff is happening. And we get introduced to this new character in the arc, Carly Carmine.
Who's also a fangirl of Jack, and can I just say, I love how I mean, we don't really care about the Trudge duel, but I love how just Jack is just like living at her house for like a couple of weeks as he broods.
Yeah, but
Which,
like,
I mean, in
like
fairness,
I
like,
thought I was
what
gonna be very annoyed.
What female character in Neo Domino City, her age, isn't totally in love with Jack? She plays card games.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, she actually plays like the closest shot out of fucking all of them.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Kaiser.
Like, no, it's okay. Like, even granted, I wish they didn't do this because it kind of feels so uncompelling, but even his assistant is pretty into him.
Dude, in season 3, Jack has like
I
a
thought
fucking
I was
harem.
going to be annoyed.
Sorry, I just want to mention, in season 3, he like literally has a fucking harem
with Carly, and maybe in some ways I was a little bit at the beginning, but I kind of understood her. She's a reporter essentially. And she's just trying to make ends meet just with that. And then she appears like right when the Dark Signer stuff gets happening. So we sort of follow a good chunk of the story with her and her interacting with Jack. But I ended up liking her a whole lot and found her relationship with Jack compelling. In fact, this is probably the best like romance that has ever happened in Yu-Gi-Oh!
Okay, they
maybe
can't ruin it.
The only romance in Yu-Gi-Oh! So far? Like, really, who else is there to compete exactly? I mean, like, there's Aki and Yusei,
well,
I suppose,
they're like,
but like,
yeah,
because I mean, there are
aside from that, like, this is like the only one that like there have always been ones that I guess the series tries to set up in some way, but end up not really going much of anywhere. And they weren't really compelling in the first place. This is like one of the only times where, okay, I can kind of vibe with this.
Yeah, and here's the thing,
which
like,
makes
even
it
though
even more,
they kind of ruin it in like season 3 by giving Jack like almost like this fucking little harem. Then season 2, like I thought it was just kind of cute that like he's just like, because you actually get the impression he does actually kind of like he is starting to develop a fucking thing for her.
Which makes sense just given all the stuff that happens here, and we can talk about that in a little bit. But here's something I gotta mention from the dub in comparison to the sub, and that's when Carly died.
Oh,
right?
God, yeah.
So what happened? Yeah. Okay, so for context, the cult that Akiza is from,
the Arcadia movement, I think they called.
Yeah, the Arcadia movement, basically. A bunch of what was it? Psychic duelists that plan to take over society. You know, they're basically the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, but for card game. Totally not silly at all. Anyways,
Brotherhood of
apparently
Evil
they have
Brotherhood of Evil trading cards.
Apparently they have information about Godwin. And Carly wanted to find this out because she wanted to help out Jack because that's involved with all this signer bullshit. What happened was that she managed to sneak into his office and then gets caught by him and then challenged to a duel in which she loses and gets knocked out of the window, which is like a huge freaking like a skyscraper, like Empire City level. bullshit. And she just gets swapped into the freaking ground. Like, she creates a crater and she fucking died. She actually died and then gets resurrected into a dark signer, which is a sad twist, right? And we can get into how great that is later. But I gotta say, when I first saw that scene, the first thing I thought of was, okay, what the fuck did the dub? Like, how did the
okay, so I'm gonna say the dub did it worse because she literally like crashes into like this little shed building or something like that in the sub, and I'm like, well, that wasn't in the fucking dub version when I watched the scene.
No, so like, what happened was that when she fell off, it's like, oh, there's like this freaking
fog.
It's this freaking like JPEG like fucking purple fog effect going on at the bottom where the freaking, you know, city is supposed to be. So the idea is that, oh, this magical dark force just traces her fall, and dude, they wouldn't let Harley just shut the fuck up. They wouldn't have the music shut the fuck up. The music kept blaring the entire time. It just ruined this goddamn scene that was originally like so sad and so good. It's like, bro, what the?
Yeah, that Carly death is just like listen,
kids.
if you thought city officials are getting assassinated was hardcore, you know, we get people getting launched out of fucking buildings to fall to their death in the show.
Yeah,
and it gets worse from here. By the way, folks.
In this case, dude, dude, like it's like that scene from the original where Kaiba was threatening that, like, oh, if you beat me in this game, Yugi, I'll slip off of the of this building from the backlash of your attack. And it's all like, bro, what the fuck are you talking about? All this shit is holograms. Right? But in this case it makes sense because
throw me off.
But in this case it makes it way more sense because the whole thing with, you know, psychic duels is that, oh, the impacts monsters make during the duel actually happen. So she actually gets like flung the fuck off. And I'm all like, bro, what? Like, this show goes.
Can I just say though, did she walk all the way back up all those stairs?
No, she flew up.
Oh, did she? Oh, okay.
Well, we don't even see either way, but I don't
know.
Just
like, that would have been funny.
She
gets all the way back up there, you just, I imagine like you just hear her like panting down the hallway, and like Divine is like, "You okay back there?" And she's just, give me a minute. Just comes in like, okay, I'm gonna catch my breath for this dramatic entrance, and like takes a minute to like calm down, then like walks in dramatically into the room.
Okay, well, I'm going to do a Yu-Gi-Oh 5D's abridged. We're going to have that scene where she hears your footsteps. Wait, aren't you supposed to be, are you okay there? Give me like 5 minutes. I have to climb up all these damn stairs.
Yeah, and then like just as they start the duel, she just thanks him for like waiting for her, because they both realize that like during the time it took for her to walk all the way up there, he could have just left. She's like, yeah, thanks for not leaving, by the way. You're dead, by the way.
But yeah, like to be fair, given how quickly they dueled again right after that, it seemed from the timeline of events that she, like, I guess magically flew or teleported there. But your way is funnier, so we'll have that be our headcanon.
That's just so funny. Like, she just walked up the fucking stairs.
Teleports behind you.
Nothing personal, kiddo. Stabs you in the back.
Nothing personnel, Divine. Nani?
I love fucking Divine. He's such a fucking sinister character. Like, even more sinister than Godwin.
Yeah, I mean, the dude just wants to take over the world.
I mean, when you find out the shit that he's, like, doing, it's just like, wow, I can't believe the show went there.
Yeah, the guy is just straight up the leader of like a secret terrorist organization.
Oh yeah, I think we should also reveal that we actually find out that Rex Goldwyn is also from the satellite as well.
Which was another thing that was introduced during this arc.
If we're gonna talk about Divine though, do we want to talk about Aki's background and how
actually let's just move on to
we can get into that.
So obviously like Yusei gets info dumped like the backstory about like the Dark Signers and how his father may have been involved in a nuclear reactor explosion that separated the city.
Yeah, because the whole thing was that he was a part of the project that was basically responsible for trying to create an infinite energy source, right? And it seems like Yusei knew about this, and we'll get into like the full story of that later. Because this is probably like one of if not the only time when the main character is related to this really important person actually kind of works in this case, kind of. Because all three of the scientists were originally from Satellite, but this event that was caused called Zero Reverse, where the reactor went haywire and essentially split off a part of the city, which became Satellite.
I find it kind of funny the number of times that we've said
Domino City.
I find it kind of funny the number of times that we've said something along the lines of "we'll get into that later." Really, just kind of like shows how much is in this show, just how much is going on, even behind like the sidelines.
Listen, Yugioh 5D's is very like layered.
Yeah,
it's like an onion.
It's like an ogre.
Yeah, it's like an ogre. Yeah.
It's got layers.
It's got layers.
Layers. You see, Donkey, ogres are like Yu-Gi-Oh 5Ds. They've got layers. What the fuck are you talking about, Shark? This show isn't out yet.
Okay, ogres are like a deck of cards. They have layers.
They're like an illegal deck of cards. They're like that guy who went to a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament with a gigantic ass deck of 1,000 cards. True story, by the way. Like, if anyone wants to know that, like, the limit, there didn't used to be a limit to how many cards you can have in a deck. They put a limit on it because a guy dared to bring in a giant ass hole-sized box that also like doubled as like a mechanism for shuffling it, and like he needed 2 people to help him use it, and the fact that it just wasted so much time just using it, like everybody hated dueling this guy because that was all he was there for, was just to waste everyone's time with this huge, ridiculous, like Looney Tunes ass style deck that Konami personally put on a limit to how many cards you can have in a deck just because of that guy alone.
That's pretty base though.
It is. It's hilarious.
Okay,
look this up, dude. I'm not lying.
Trying to cheat the system.
This is real, and it's amazing. Yeah, I'll find the story for this. Guy goes to a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament with a.
Who the fuck would play against that?
Card games are serious business.
Well, no one, but it's a tournament, so like if you get paired against someone, it's either you play him or you lose. You gotta forfeit. Like you either play him or you forfeit. That's the best part about it, is that like he literally was just there to waste everyone's time. Sized deck. This come on, where is it? Yeah, this is it. Oh my god.
All right, link it.
I have a picture of it too. Bio.
Here we go.
You have to like put a picture of this in the stream so that everyone knows that this.
Oh my god.
It's amazing.
Oh my god, he has a fedora too. Holy shit.
No, this guy knew exactly what he was doing. It's the most beautiful thing.
Okay, I might make this the thumbnail. It's fucking great.
Why would you do this? Why would you do this?
It's the big Kaiser. Do not ask questions that you don't want to answer. Listen, Kaiser. Some people just want to watch the world burn slowly. I
have to share this. Okay, I have to share this. This is fucking great.
Can you imagine, like, if he made a deck that was specifically about, like, getting cards from his deck, or, like, milling in some way?
Oh my god.
And, like, every time he had to, like, search for a card, and then he has to pull out his mechanism that, like, shuffles it. Imagine how much time a single turn would take. Like...
I'm gonna share this. This is fucking...
Like,
okay.
Especially nowadays, with just the amount of cards that you would have.
Yeah.
Right, and then all the different, like, effects and stuff that goes on with, like, getting shuffled into the deck and shit like that. You would be oh my goodness. But where were we?
If he won any duels, you know that he won by forfeit because of someone not wanting to put up with that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, where were we?
I can't stop fucking... I'm even gonna make this the thumbnail, but like change the pictures to like you saying Jack, or like...
Oh my god!
like okay, you saying Jack show up to the Fortune Cup tournament. They show up to the Fortune Cup tournament with a 1,000 card deck. Okay, let's...
in Magic the Gathering, there is a card called Ravenous Rats, I think, and it is, I believe, the only card that you are allowed to have as many copies of it as you want. That has nothing to do with anything. I just thought I'd point that out. Yeah, just imagine a deck of like that card exclusively.
Oh god.
And it's that.
You know what I should do is before we get back on track, what I should do, right, is just Photoshop like Yusei and Jack's Fat Atlas's picture on that fucking thing used as the thumbnail for the video.
But then you have the guy in the background who's like looking at them, and that's Godwin.
Yes.
He's just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
And I'm gonna change the text to be like, oh yeah, two people entered the Fortune Cup tournament with 1,000 card decks. After this, Godwin decided to limit it to 60.
Yeah, it took Duel Monsters hundreds of years before it took Duel Monsters almost 100 years before they finally put a limit on how many cards you could have. Meanwhile, in our world, it took like only 2 or 3. I don't know when Yu-Gi-Oh came out.
Okay, so with Jack, after he loses to Yusei, I know, very unpredictable outcome.
Yeah.
100%. No one saw that coming. Absolutely no one. If you say you did, you're a liar. Anyways, so
Wait,
after
Jack
that,
lost?
yes, indeed, the king got dethroned.
No! Just proceeds to like pull down a giant Jack Atlas pin up on my wall. Like, this is the origin of my evil villain arc.
Yeah.
Just, like,
you're the one fanboy. You're that kind of fanboy.
Yeah. Like, just looking up at like this framed portrait of Jack Atlas, tear it down like Syndrome style. I thought you were unbeatable. Then dedicates the rest of my life defeating Yusei or some shit. Sorry, didn't mean to go on that tangent. Yeah, so after this totally unpredictable thing happens, Kaiser?
Yeah, after that totally unpredictable thing happens, Yusei becomes, the king of the tournament. And in light of all the things that are kind of gotten revealed as a result of that, like, Godwin with Bomber's Village, and Jack sort of revealing that he as well as Yusei are from, the satellite, and Yusei not really being all for having all the fame and shit. He just kind of tries to dip in order to find his friends to make sure that they are safe, which apparently they were in like a freaking bunker this whole time, like one of those big carrier fucking can thing, and I guess they were fed food during that, but I don't know how they went to the bathroom, but let's not talk about that. But during that time, basically, like, Jack was just depresso espresso, because now he just, even before fighting Yusei, he kind of questions why or how he got there the way that he did.
It's interesting,
sort of just being beside himself.
It's also cool because he very much gives like that kind of impression that he feels like he's back to square one. Like he hasn't really accomplished anything that, even though he got, like, he didn't, or at least he doesn't feel like he necessarily seemed to have amounted to what he set out to be. He has escaped the satellite. He has the respect and admiration of pretty much everyone in Neo Domino. It's like, this stuff doesn't matter to him, and he is just so distraught. Like, you can tell he very much was looking forward to this rematch with Yusei, and like, just all the more it was building up to this. He, like, what was the point of it all?
Yeah.
He stole Yusei's card, egged him on to chase after him so that they could have one more duel.
Basically betrayed all of his friends.
Yeah, betrayed all them.
Betrayed all his friends.
What was it even for?
He gave up everything to be a part of this city that he barely really cares for all that much, because everybody's sort of out for themselves, and so he was out for himself. And now that it's all done, like, what does he do?
Yeah, and of course the average person would be like,
what is
the average person, of course, would be like, well, like, you have so much, fucking like one of the most famous people ever, and he just does not, because he didn't get that's not what he was after. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Continue.
Yeah, no, you're right. It wasn't about that. But like, here's the thing. Right here, he's trying to figure out what it was even about and what it needs to be about now. Like, he wants to be a king, or to be someone great at dueling and shit like that. But is it about just the status or the attitude? Right. That's essentially sort of like the big question he's trying to get into, and also being able to like empathize with other people and the importance of having other people, you know, right behind you, right? Because he was still afraid that people were going to reject him as a result of losing, and a lot of them did, it seemed like. But
I also like how he doesn't double down. Like, his answer is to just keep trying, like to go to the Seto Kaiba route and to keep trying until, you know, he, not to say that like there's anything wrong with,
tripling down, like
just keep
it just
going
would
until
not
like
fit Jack.
building a time travel device just so that he can like defeat his arch rival. I mean, not that like that's bad about Kaiba, but like it sets him apart from Kaiba because it shows that, you know, that level of pettiness isn't something that necessarily drives him, and it makes him, he sticks apart from Kaiba as a rival in that regard. That he doesn't just, you know, beating Yusei really, even though that was something that he wanted to do, it wasn't like for its own sake that he wanted to do it. And, you know, he's probably thinking to himself, I mean, I probably could like duel him again, but you know, what's the point? I fucking lost to him twice in a row.
Sort of just proving that his whole route of, you know, basically just absolute isolation,
which honestly you
completely wrong.
You feel for him a little bit in that regard because he doesn't have like that same kind of like, you know, deterministic stubborn drive that Kaiba does, who's like, yeah, I lost to Yugi for the 27th time. I'm gonna duel him again, and this time I will beat him.
Hey, listen, that's the Kaiba grind set. You never give up the grind.
Well, yeah, that's my point. I'm not saying that it's like that is not a knock to Kaiba. That is just, you know.
I mean, this is a dude who invented like a satellite station to go into the Egyptian afterlife to like duel the pharaoh. Like, listen, do not question the grind.
Well, no, but that grind belongs to Kaiba, though. Is my point.
Yeah.
You know, you can't like copy that. You gotta like be your own character, be your own right, and that's what I think Jack is. He is not just, you know,
blackjacks and hookers.
Yeah, he's
and
not
red
just,
dragon and dragons. Most importantly, dragon cards
with blackjack atlases and.
No, listen, Jack Atlas is like, listen, I'm gonna duel Yusei with red dragon, archfiends, and reporters.
Makes a red dragon archfiend jet, flies over to. So yeah, I like that like his modus operandi is not just beat Yusei. It's, you know, more than that. And so like he's gotten to that point where he's just like, what do I do now?
And I love how Carly's just like, why don't you go back home? Like, go back to Satellite. Like, your friends are there, right? And that's what I like about like the Jack and kind of Carly interactions of this early part, is that you can see that Jack is kind of like lowering his guard, and at some point like Carly isn't viewing him as just a meal ticket anymore, but she's actually like, wait a minute, am I actually forming a genuine connection with this person? And she has to see like sides that she gets to see side of Jack that no one else gets to see.
Yeah, and I mean, it is
like,
kind of.
She helps him find some kind of purpose again, which is great.
I think that like the dynamic that they have, especially like you said, you know, she just straight up says, why don't you just go back to your friends? And of course, Jack, being someone who actually understands the context of everything that happens, is like, can't fucking do that. Like, I just betrayed all my friends. Just doesn't even like know what exactly he can do. And then you have this person who just wants to help him, just gives like the most obvious answer that just so happens to be correct, and Jack just like can't see it because he can't get over himself. And like that dynamic kind of works.
Because I mean, when you did that much, when you did all that shit, like, why would you turn back?
It's adorable. I love them.
I 110%. Carly proves herself to be like sleeper hit best girl of this whole thing.
I thought this anime was about
when it comes to best girls,
this anime is about card games on motorcycles, but it's also about card games on ships.
Yes. Okay. I would say like that Aki and Carly are like fucking tied for like best girl in this entire fucking the show, because like, oh, it's so good.
Yeah, it's all really good. So aside from that going on, you also have the Dark Signers making their move, which involves one of them basically using like certain people as like puppets and trying to gather a cult within Satellite and a Neo Domino. Essentially.
Yeah.
This is kind of like the fucked up part. Like, I mean, I guess do we want to talk about like the reason why they're trying to get cultists, or do we want to wait until like the first Earthbound Immortal gets
let's wait till the first Earthbound Immortal. Let's not like blow our load too early. Yeah, so
boy.
so Yusei ends up back in Satellite. Jack's gonna be on the way, and who does he run into? His best friend, fucking Crow. It's like he's like, bro.
Yeah.
Okay, can I just say, fucking Crow is
Bro,
great. Like when he shows up, you feel like, oh god, is this like another rival of Yusei? And you realize, oh no way, this is just a friend of his. Like it's just him and Jack and Crow, the fucking dynamic trio, the three musketeers.
Yeah, it's like, it's sort of like, okay, with Crow, it's either you really like him or you really don't. People kind of say that he is sort of like the precursor to Soulburner and Rain, and I kind of understand that, where it's sort of like, he's not entirely like a Mary Sue, but he has a lot of, as Pete would say, Mary Sue potential, okay? Because it's this guy who was never really mentioned before this part that is intimately pretty intertwined with the main characters of the show, that is like, oh, he's got his own D-wheel, he's got his own cards, he's doing all this crazy cool shit, you know, all this
Motorcycle
stuff.
has a
But
jetpack and it flies.
Hey, it doesn't fly, it falls with style.
Yeah.
He broke new ground. But like,
Soon we're gonna have
honestly,
card
at
games on
least in
flying
regards to this
motorcycles.
first arc, I do understand. Yeah, I do understand why people don't like him like later, because of certain things that happen later in the show. But for this portion, for the whole Darksiders arc, I think he was used excellent. Like, I don't think you could do him much better than this.
Yeah, like
I
in
don't
the
think he
second
takes
season,
too much spotlight away from the other characters. He adds enough to Yusei and all the other characters' bullshit. Like, it would have been, the only problem I had with him is that it would have been better if there was a little more setup to him existing prior to this. But aside from that, like, I'm cool with it. That's fine.
like with season 2, I don't think there's barely a bad episode of Crow in it, and I think he kind of adds because he's kind of like this. He's kind of like the smart mouth, wisecracking guy of the group, you know, which kind of fits because Yusei's kind of stoic and Jack is, well, Jack.
Like, they're all stoic in their own ways, but yeah, there's that. And like, you know, Crow is just running away from the cops basically, and Yusei is there because he hears that, you know, like, he knows that because of his duel with Jack, they got a vision of Satellite being destroyed by the Darksiders, and he's like, I gotta get in there. So he has to figure out, okay, what the hell is going on here, right?
Yeah, because the streets are now
So he's
emptier
trying to
now.
figure out.
Yeah, because when like he's driving
Yeah,
around
the
with Crow,
streets are emptier.
yeah, and he's like, where is everyone? There should be people around. And Crow's like, well, there's been weird shit going on lately ever since you left. And you're just like, oh shit.
Yeah, Satellite's kind of gone to shit while you were gone, you say.
Even more than usual.
Even deeper shit than it already
Yeah,
is.
was really saying something. And yeah, we'll get it. We haven't even figured out the full extent of that yet. What episode are we on in the summary?
I think around the 60 mark, because I think around this part,
I believe we're around like 30. Yeah,
30?
we're around like 29 or 30, I believe.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Okay, let's so you know, we have Jack and shit coming along. We don't need to go into super details. Now let's go to the first Earthbound Immortal, and then we can move on to like the Aki stuff as well, because there's some crazy shit. Some crazy shit happens in the next couple episodes.
Yeah, so we find out that the reason why the Darksiders have been cultivating cultists is because when the Earthbound Immortal is summoned, it needs sacrifices. And I don't just mean like your usual card sacrifices. I mean like actual people.
No.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they
Earthbound Immortals, or I guess Earthbound Gods.
Yeah.
As the sub calls them, but we can't say that in the dub apparently, because we can say God at one point, but we can't use it here.
So I hate that too, because like God is like printed in the attribute of the Egyptian god card. They call them Egyptian gods too. I don't know why. Yeah, whatever. So when oh right, Kiryu.
Yeah, we're gonna get to him. That's what okay. You go. Let's go on about Kiryu, because honestly, I thought he was a very cool character, and also like we get a bit more reveal about Yusei, Jack, and Crow's shared like history together.
Yeah. We may as well just talk all about it anyways. We don't have to necessarily go in order, or else this shit will last fucking eons. So essentially, their whole backstory is this: back before, you know, Jack betrayed them and left Neo Domino, and we have the story as is presented. We had Yusei, Jack Crow, and Kiryu, or Killian in the dub, all be a part of like their own dueling street gang,
which is based.
and they're called
Yeah.
Team Satisfaction. Which can I just say, I swear to God, that has to be like a reference to a boy band or some shit. I don't know.
God.
It has to be a reference. To that.
I mean, they kind of dress up like a
But-
boy band. They got like the denim shorts and like the fucking jackets and stuff. All of
They
them are
got
like
capes.
relative.
They got
ca-
capes.
They
It's
got
fucking
capes
great.
too.
Like I like it much more than the dub name that they got, the Enforcers, because
What
it
was the
really
name?
seems like
Oh,
they
the
are
Enforcer.
there's like a level of flavor to their name. Team Satisfaction. They got like this
Yeah.
kind of style thing going.
Yeah, they
you
want to
know.
be satisfied.
Is that
Yeah. Oh my.
no homo?
Listen, there are no
Well,
women in
yeah,
satellites.
They're just
Yeah.
well, not anyone hot anyways, as I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure.
No wonder
But
crime
then
is so
again, it's a
skyrocketing. There's not enough
dystopian-
like pretty women to go around. They got to like fight it out with card games.
Yeah.
I wonder if there would be any brothels there. I mean, there probably would be or something.
There'd
but
have
I
to
don't know.
be. I mean, yeah,
Uh,
there might as well be.
Fucking HIV must be pretty bad over there because there's no freaking hospitals or shit either. Just police
Yeah.
stations.
Like the worst part
But
is like
freaking
nobody
yeah.
gives a shit. Yeah, but yeah, sorry, continue.
Continue.
Yeah, nobody cares. But yeah, they were all a part of the street gang, and they do what all street gangs do, and they try to claim like territory for their gang. They go after every single gang in their territory in Satellite in order to become the bestest gang ever, right?
Yeah.
Because yeah, I mean, at least by doing this, you know, it kind of just gives them a purpose in life.
Yeah, and considering that,
Essentially,
like in
because what
satellite, you
else are
don't
you
really have
going
much
to
to live.
fucking
I
do
mean,
here?
and considering that in satellite, you don't really have much to live for because they've basically taken like all the fun and enjoyment in life. You know, having like glorious battles in the street is like one way to pass the time, I guess.
Well, it also like recontextualizes Crow's background a little
Right.
more because of like the connection that they have with the other. Because they really want to like make the satellite a place to live, and part of that is kind of getting rid of like all these other, or at least pushing back against all these other kind of gangs. I don't think they go into it like too much, but it
They're
is kind of
way
like
more ruthless.
yeah, it is kind of implied. They are like the Robin Hoods, the band of merry men.
And what I like about like Team Satisfaction is that they have a
essentially.
really good dynamic before everything like goes to shit. Like it's a really cool like dynamic.
Yeah, and let's talk about how things went to shit.
Yeah.
Bio, would you do the honors?
You know,
Yeah.
so after like defeating
Yeah,
all the
fine,
other
go on.
lesser street gangs, obviously, their leader decides to come to the next best conclusion. He decides, let's go fight the police.
Oh god, yeah, because that's who has ever fought the police and lost. Like, surely we can do that.
Yeah, Jack and Crow are like, fuck that, Kiryu, we're not doing that. And Yusei was like the only one that stood with him until eventually, like, it's like a Griffith, almost like a Griffith situation, right? Like he becomes like blinded by ambition and success. He's like,
Mhm.
We beat them all. Like, why not we, like, take down the cops and, like, try and liberate, like, Satellite? And you can actually understand why Kiryu is doing this as well, because it's like Jack, he's a person with ambition and with dreams, and he just keeps on being, like, kicked down by fucking the Satellite and the society that he lives in. Like, you're not allowed to have dreams, you're not allowed to have freedom, and it doesn't matter if you're a criminal or not. If you're born in Satellite, you're just Satellite scum and trash. And Kiryu, like Jack just can't accept that. He doesn't want that. And so...
He's got, like, Jason Todd vibes in a way, where, like, he has, like, good intentions, but, like, for the wrong reasons. He's clearly out for, like, he's out, like, not for, like, the justice of it, but, like, for the vengeance. And that maybe not even for that. Like, it's clearly that there's some kind of...
for the thrill.
Yeah,
It's sort
he
of
gets, like, some
yeah.
kind of kick out of
Yeah,
doing
like a sort of
this.
thrill.
And that he's using, like, the excuse of it being for a good cause.
Yeah,
as
and,
the reason
obviously,
he
he
Fucked
takes...
up
Yeah.
as the story goes on, right?
Yeah, and basically, he freaking, like, he blows up a freaking building and then, like, beats a fucking cop to death, and Yusei's like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
and,
he
like,
blows up the police station.
Whoa, Kiryu! We beat people
Using
in card
his
games.
dual
We
disc.
don't beat people up.
yeah, he also, like, beats a cop to
Yeah,
death, so,
I
you
mean,
know...
that's essentially what
Yeah.
this is.
Yeah, like, he blows up I think he blows up, like, their headquarters, or, like, one of them, at least, like, one of their major buildings of operation.
Yeah.
And then, like, beats a cop to death, and, like, the rest of them Gizuma's just like, what the fuck are you doing? And and here's where the betrayal of the thing happens, is that Yusei decides to take the fall for him, right? But basically the cop's like, nah, you're full of shit. We know that he's your leader. Like, and then like all Kiryu sees is the fucking cop shaking Yusei's hand. So Kiryu thinks that Yusei sold him out, even though that's not what happened. Like, Yusei and the others tried their best to save him, because basically one of them was going to take the fall for him, because like, you know, we're not like they're like, yeah, he's gone down like he's gone a little crazy, but we're not going to like fucking from to the wolves.
Oh yeah, you know, he kind of probably, you know, killed a few people, but he's just tortured. He's just tortured.
Just a few.
He's like the flag smashers from Falcon and the Winter Soldier, right? He's just misunderstood.
Yeah, anyway,
he's just misunderstood.
Let's go into more detail about the backstory. So we find out that like in jail, he was basically like beaten and starved to death. Like, the only thing he wanted to do was fight Yusei again, because he thinks...
my god! Okay, it's not so unsurprising that they just ignored that in the dub. Of course.
In the sub, they show it to you. Like they're just like, he was like beaten and starved to death. They took his deck, they spat on him. And what all he wanted to do was just try and make Satellite a better place. I mean, granted.
So he gets revived after he dies into a Dark Signer, all so that he can one day get back at Yusei.
Revenge story all over again, man. It's classic.
Yeah, except in this case, it's a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Which just makes it all the more tragic, actually, because you know he fucking hates Yusei now, and I actually really like their first duel, and I also like how Yusei almost fucking dies in this one.
Yeah. In my okay, we all know the prolific difference between dub and sub here. So when freaking Yusei loses and crashes, which is very impactful, by the way, because it's the first time like we
both figuratively and literally.
Well, yeah. He has like a freaking shrapnel just stuffed into his freaking rib cage, right? And he's bleeding. So they have to get him back to the orphanage in which he grew up in, where Martha is, in order to get better.
Yeah,
in the dub,
Martha's
they
like the
changed it all like, I sprained my gut. Oh, what did you say?
Yeah, it seems like Martha's like the only doctor in Satellite. Or at least one of the few.
Well, has a doctor anyways. There's another dude that's like an actual doctor.
I sprained my arm. I can't draw cards while my arm is hurt. Can't duel.
Like, if I remember correctly, like even in the sub, they show like blood and then like operating him. Like he got fucked up.
They
like
do.
He's lucky he's not like fucking crippled for life.
Oh yeah,
like in the dub, they show like a close up of his stomach, and you know there's no blood or anything. I guess they make it more implied that it's sort of like internal bleeding or bruising, and they literally make him be all like, "Oh my god!" It's like, okay,
I mean,
guys,
and at the same time, like Bio, you say that he's lucky that he's not crippled for life. I mean, it could have been even much worse than that. A giant fucking almost smashed it. Like he's lucky he's not like red paste on the ground.
Like Yugioh,
Yugioh. I don't know if we mentioned that, but Dark Signers can make their monsters real too.
Yeah, and they're fucking huge, by the way. And speaking of crazy shit with Dark Signers, let's move on to Aki, because let's see what she's been up to. So in the building of Arcadia, we don't just get one, we get two of these fucking things being summoned at once. All localized in the Arcadia movement building.
So a bunch of people disappear and and their souls get sucked into the both of these monsters. Wanton destruction. So when Divine loses, he allegedly dies. And the building gets completely fucked up after Carly becomes a Dark Signer, and the girl that she met, who is an actress named Misty, who is also a Dark Signer, who also is going out for revenge against Aki. It's cycled revenge all over again, baby. We love it. We love it here. We are petty fucking bitches. Okay, we are petty. Petty
listen,
bitches.
Carly just has a bestie and Misty, like they're besties now.
Yes. Right. And freaking so as a result of that, basically Aki just loses just loses it. She loses her sense of purpose, because Divine was the first person who accepted her and gave her a place to live with her powers and shit like that. So he's just out of the picture, and she just could not handle it. Forget how she gets comatose. I think her
I
powers
think it's
just
from the
go out
trauma
of
of the
whack, I
duel
guess.
and seeing like Divine fucking fall to his death as well. Like,
Oh
it's
yeah,
like,
Divine, yeah.
like it was a combination of shit, and also like because I think Jack gets her out when she's in a coma, and Jack also sees like Carly's like glasses somewhere in the rubble. And he's like, "Oh my god, was she here?" So
Yeah.
that gives
Oh my
Jack
God,
even
this
more
happened in
motivation to go
episode
against
40.
the Dark Signers because he thinks now Carly's dead or been sucked up in the Cthulhu monster.
Yeah. And we find out that like, Yusei, Rua and Ruka, they find out Jack and them find out that okay, she is not waking up. It seems like her signer mark is reacting, but nothing can wake her up except for Yusei. Not even her own parents who show up, who apparently the dad is like a politician in Neo Domino City.
A high-ranking
But
one of
because
that.
of Aki's powers, yeah, oh my god, we'll get to that in a minute. But because of Aki's powers, they basically she ran away to become a part of the Arcadia movement, and nobody knows that they are related. But they did come in, and because they were legitimately worried about her, which kind of goes into how this show actually handles Aki's abuse, which is probably some of the most compelling version of anime parent abuse ever, just ever.
And it also doesn't like it doesn't.
essentially
It also
this-
like here's the thing. It's actually pretty neutral on the the parents. Like you can kind of see like they're trying.
It's very nuanced.
Yeah, like you can tell that like Aki's parents do actually care about their daughter. They just don't know how to deal with it. They're like, what the fuck can we do?
Yeah.
They really have no idea what, because like her powers are manifested by dueling. Their answer is, let's send her to a duel academy. I can't see anything possibly going wrong with that.
But don't worry, Martha has a solution. You say, right, go save your future wife. What? Stop brooding. Get there. Get this done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's way more compelling here than in the dub because, like,
Yes.
Yusei is obviously just a straight-laced dope trying to do the right thing, and here's Martha just kind of momming it up basically. Which is really cute, which is really good.
Yeah.
It kind of in fact, it kind of sets up this whole dichotomy there because this takes place after Yusei loses to Killian and almost dies.
Yeah.
And he thinks that like, yo, I kind of like deserve this because of what happened with Killian. I'm not sure if I can save anyone, but like, Aki is the one of the first major people that he managed to save throughout first arc of the show. So he's like, yeah, I guess, I gotta do it. If I can't, if we can't, who will really? So he duels Aki for the second time, and this duel is really, really good.
It's intense too.
Especially just adding the parents in the angle here. Do you want to go into the full backstory of it?
I mean, I think the basic backstory is that, like, they send her to the duel academy and then she runs away from that because she's, like, being, like, harassed, stuff like that. And she sees her parents happy and she thinks that, like, her parents are happy that she's not there and that's not what's going on.
Yeah.
And in fairness, do I want to be like the Debbie Downer again? Like bring it up.
Oh my god.
Do I
Okay,
even want
periodic
to-
Pete, more like
More
Depression Dan.
yeah.
yeah.
More like get the fuck out. There is no pun, just get out.
Like,
So I do like her story.
It's great.
However, there's some of the context behind her background that I'm a little bit unclear on. I just have questions about. So like the first thing, obviously,
Okay.
again, like I was joking earlier when I said that the girl whose uncontrollable psychic powers are brought about by dueling gets sent to a duel academy as a solution. Like I joke about that, but that is kind of like one of the things that had me kind of confused all throughout the series because so I remember back in the tournament arc, I forget what it was, the something cup,
The friendship
but-
cup or something.
So but back there
No.
on just before her duel with Yusei, you had like this moment where everyone, like they were pointing out how everyone in the stands was like out for blood. They wanted to see her lose, and they painted it as a bad thing, and like in a way it kind of is, but at the same time I couldn't exactly blame them for doing that. So like, yeah, you are hurting people by playing this card game. You are like hospitalizing people through what you're doing, and I mean you can't control it, but you can control whether or not, and that's kind of the thing is like,
yeah.
I want to know like why she kept, like, if I can understand her continuing to duel after she joined the Arcadia movement, and they tried to like tried to encourage her to do that kind of stuff.
I think it's also implied that she can't control her powers, because I think it's implied that psychics have the option of doing that, and she can't control hers because she's like ridiculously powerful even for a psychic duelist.
But the thing is, like, she only ever uses her power because she's still just a psychic duelist, which means that she still needs to duel in order for her to use her powers. So there is still some level of control she does have. She may not be able to control whether or not she hurts someone in a duel, but she can control whether or not she duels. And this is kind of the thing, is like, I wonder why a solution, just give up card games, wasn't an option for her. Cause, and I mean, like, okay, sure, this is like, people joke, it's Yu-Gi-Oh! Oh, giving up card games, it's like
the world runs on card games. Yeah.
You ask someone to like give up sex, and at the same time, I can't help but think to certain characters from X-Men. Think about Rogue and like what lengths she was willing to go to just so that like she wouldn't harm someone just by touching someone. Yeah. Like the kinds of, you think of like Cyclops, who forever has to wear red tinted glasses just because he can't look in someone's general direction without blowing them away. The kind of, you cannot, oh no, the Egyptian gods are killing me for daring to speak blasphemy.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't die, Pete.
I'm actually dying.
It's the nitpicking disease. This is the nitpicking disease.
Okay, I'm fine.
This is total. I am totally not responsible for this. Totally not.
Just like hides the death note in your in your drawer.
No, listen. Kaiser sent up a secret telecommunication to these pyramid satellite cannons. They're shooting cancer right into your. It's advanced ancient Egyptian technology.
Kaiser is secretly a psychic duelist, and he played the satellite card. I forget what it's called.
Satellite cannon.
Yeah, satellite cannon. It's just shooting cancer beams at me from orbit. So like,
totally
like on the one hand, okay, I can believe that like not wanting to give up card games is something that like any character in a Yu-Gi-Oh show would want to do. I just find it very odd that that's not a solution that is proposed for her power. And, you know, again, that is really the only issue that I take with this. I think barring that, everything else works really well.
Yeah,
it's
great.
It's your standard X-Men kind of story, and it like X-Men works for a reason, and it works here too.
Yeah, well, what's great about it is that, like, you know, she's put in this vulnerable state, and what happens? She gets groomed by a cult leader.
Yeah.
Like,
just like in X-Men.
Yeah,
just like the Brotherhood. Like we were talking about the Brotherhood of. But like that's exactly what they are.
And by the way, after like the Aki duel, we find out some of the crazy shit that like Divine was up to.
Oh, we'll get to that in a minute. But before we do that, I want to bring attention to like the most compelling aspect of this duel, which you'll probably learn if you've seen like say Manga Commons videos about Aki and her story, which is that the way the parents were framed, especially the father was framed in the story, weren't usually with abuse in anime. They're either with parents. Parents in anime are kind of a mixed bag most of the time, because they're either really abusive or not very or just really nice to the point of being, you know, boring basically. But here the abuse that like Aki suffered, because when what was it, when the dad sort of like struck her the first time, it wasn't something that, you know, of course he didn't want to do that. You know, it started off as them just playing a friendly game of the game, and her powers just wild out, and she almost killed him. She almost freaking killed him, basically. And he was just incredibly afraid of her, but he regretted it, like literally almost immediate. And he didn't try to shut her out from her life. But what also kind of added to her frustration was the fact that because the dad is so busy with his whole like politician shit, he was never around for her. He was never around to like be there for her, even in her birthday, basically. So, you know, this adding on to the powers, which fundamentally made her different from everyone else in their mind, it just ruptured their whole relationship, which is why, you know, Aki felt that she had no one else to rely upon, and the only way that she could like
react to the harshness of the world, is sort of just be harsh herself. It created this whole sadistic personality. She can tell that it is poisoning her. Like, just somewhere deep down, she understands that this is just not the right thing to do, but she doesn't know what else to do, right? Because this is the only way that she can express herself and be free to do what she wants and to express her feelings. But you say, which is why it's great that Yusei is in the picture, because she shows that it's fine to have these feelings and to air them out, but you can't use those things to hurt people, because that will like ruin any opportunity for you to have any worthwhile relationships with anyone. Which is, it's sort of great how both of the duels are too hard, or just to sell the importance of it, really. It's this relatively just simple story, just taken on its head. They even do, like, there's this cheesy symbolism in both fights where, whenever Black Rose Dragon attacks Stardust Dragon, it leaves marks, which is a sign that Yusei is willing to be that one person who can take the punishment. But even then, the dad doesn't just sit around. He kind of takes some of it too. He's willing to change. He's willing to be better. He's willing to apologize and try to understand things from her perspective. That's what makes this so great.
Yeah, and it's so great, and you don't get this in most Yu-Gi-Oh shows anymore. Maybe except Reigns, but like.
No, you don't. No, the fuck you don't.
No, like, man, why can't we have this? Like, stuff like this.
I wish they did something like this. I wish they did something like this with Zexal, between freaking, what's his name? Kite and, what was it? Dr. Faker. Because Dr. Faker, like, his whole thing is that he thinks he's doing the right thing. But throughout the entire shit, I can't take him seriously because he's literally Dr. Eviling it up for most of it. And I'm all like, bro, what the fuck? Come on.
I like the story with Aki for like the same reason I like the conflict between Jack and Yusei in the earlier portions of the season.
Yeah.
This kind of stuff, the revenge story, this, pseudo X-Men kind of story, like, these are things that, aren't necessarily special. They've been done before, but like they've been done before because they really work. And the fact that they fit so well here in this, in Yu-Gi-Oh, is both surprising and very refreshing in a way. You can have these kinds of like conflicts, even, when it's not like the world is ending, even though it kind of is, but like, that's not the point here anyways. There's like other things at stake, and I like that. I know I was joking earlier about like the whole supernatural stuff, but like, it's cool that you just have like this kind of smaller stakes kind of stuff, and it really works. Like, the fact that it, like, don't get me wrong, the fact that it's smaller stakes is not the reason why it works, but like, that's just I like
makes it much more personable.
Yeah, it is just stuff that this is just stuff that like works in writing, and it works here. What else to
In
say?
fact, hold on, one last thing, because I was looking at the duel in the background while I was talking. Like, they also dove into like the theme of fear, because Yusei was afraid to duel Killian or any of the Dark Signers again, because this is the first time like he really like gone face to face with death, like actual death, right?
Yeah.
Like, not someone else getting hurt or anything like that. Something almost happened to him because he felt that he deserved it, and he wasn't sure if he could, help anyone else because of that.
Yeah.
And really, Aki is doing what she's doing because she's afraid of getting hurt too. But by both of them addressing that, they kind of just came together and came out stronger on the other side. This is a great way of showcasing just, these sorts of compelling themes in a way that's not super dumbed down. It's all very compelling. It's all very apparent. And thank God I didn't look at the dub version of this fight, because they would have fucking ruined it.
It was terrible.
Okay.
We're just gonna leave it at that. Not gonna talk about it. Not even going to.
Yeah, we're just gonna leave it at that.
What I like about this too is that, like, especially in comparison to Zexal, I feel so much more invested in the duels in this show, because there's a lot more going on than just what is happening in the duel. There's also like stuff happening with the characters and stuff. Like, I actually skipped a couple duels in this show because I was so used to like the really, not so investing duels of Zexal, where it was just a card game. There wasn't much character going on in those kinds of duels, that like when I went into 5Ds, I thought it was going to be like the same kind of thing where I actually skipped a couple duels at first. I almost skipped the first duel with Aki, and then I realized, oh right,
What
I'm
the
not watching
fuck?
Zexel, am I?
No.
No.
Why would you do?
It's like, oh, it's Yugioh. It's
Oh my
always been
God.
like this. And I was like,
Yeah,
why?
like
I
even
think
in
that.
some of the tiniest duels, even in
Mhm.
some of the tiniest duels, they have some really good, compelling stuff going on.
Yeah, like going back to the
And
prison
this
stuff.
is why
Like everything
the
about like the duels in
prison.
the prison was, like every single move played a part of like that general theme. Because you have to establish that the cards are shit before you can establish that like the deck is shit. You do that, through the duel. So when you have like the first couple turns when like the treasure monsters don't work, and then like you end it where they do, that like pushes pushes home the theme of like that general part of the arc, and you got like all kinds of duels that are like that.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you again. Continue, Kaiser.
No, that you're absolutely right. Or that other duel that, like, I think Yusei had with a guy that basically wanted to get back at Jack. But Yusei actually respected him as a duelist, even though he was kind of a dickhead. And he was just glad to actually be able to duel with somebody like him who actually respects the freaking game. Like, if there's anything about Yusei that is compelling throughout this show, it's that he respects the freaking game. He respects the people who play it, at least to a certain extent, and people just respond back to that, and they vibe with that a lot. And I really love the way that the show conveys that without making him too boring.
Yeah, I don't want to interrupt like your thing, but we really need to like, we've always recorded for like 3 hours. I do want to get to like characters and shit like that after we finish the Dark Signer arc.
Okay, yeah, totally.
Because like at this current moment, I'm going to be left with like, almost like 3 hours
all
of
the
podcast
Aki
to
fights
edit.
are great.
The Aki fight's great. Okay, now moving on to like the Dark Signer fights and the rematch with okay, we're probably going to mention like maybe the Jack and like the Yusei one because those are probably like the most memorable. I just want to ask now, when it came to like one of the twins fighting the monkey guy, did anyone here like care for that? Because I kind of felt it was boring.
I did not care for that.
Not really.
If there is any like weak part, if there's any weak part in this entire story, it's probably Rua and Luca's arc, just mainly for their duels. Everything outside of their duels is fine. It's just that when the duels happen, when we get to the dueling spirits world shit, they could have done so much better.
It's just so fucking boring.
Oh my God.
Like, listen, I don't mind the twins. I think they're fine, but like, it's just so fucking boring. You're just like, oh, fucking come on. Okay. Now, do we want to talk about, before we move on to the main shit, do we want to talk about like Bomber and shit? Like, because he comes back for round 2.
All right, y'all can talk about that.
Not me personally. That was. I mean, if you got some stuff that you want to talk about, like,
I just wanted to say,
I
I just thought it was cool how he had like a bit of a parallel with Crow. How like he's doing this to avenge like the kids that he's looking after, and then he realized that like in sacrificing this fucking giant earthbound creature, he's sacrificing the kids that Crow looks after. So he's basically becoming what he hates.
Yeah. Cycle of revenge once more.
Yeah, cycle of revenge.
God, how many revenge stories are in this goddamn series?
A lot. Okay. Now, when it comes to the Aki versus Misty fight, the rematch, I thought it was like a pretty good duel, and I like the part where fucking Divine gets eaten by the fucking Earthbound Immortal.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, fucking
That
swallowed
was
whole,
good.
savage.
Yes. That duel was pretty decent, and I like the conclusion of it especially because Missy's whole thing was that she's going after Aki because she thought she killed her brother. Whereas in actuality, and this is where we get to the Divine stuff, Divine takes kids who have the potential to be like psychic duelists, and he experiments on them, like, and they either survive or they fucking die. And the brother died in this case.
Yeah.
So.
And then Missy's like, oh, you're the one who killed my brother. Cool. Earthbound Immortal, eat him. And he gets, like, fucking eaten alive.
Yep.
Yeah.
I did like Yusei's duel with the spider one, especially when the spider dude is, like, trying to mindfuck Issei, being like, oh, yeah, your father caused this. It was destiny. It was fate. And Yusei is just having none of it.
Yeah, it's just card games, man.
Yeah.
I'm not here for that shit. I'm
Okay.
here for the card games.
I know we're shooting through those other ones, but nothing really much happens. Now, the ones
I'll be honest, I was kind of like after the monkey stuff, I
kind of fell off too.
Stuff.
Now, which one do you want to cover?
Honestly, I feel like none of the other duels are bad. Absolutely none of the other duels are bad except for that one. That killed. And that was the first one, too. That was the first one.
The monkey
It's because it was
terrible.
so long.
It was 4 episodes, motherfucker.
It was so long, and it was because It was
I think
because
it might
I
have
was
been actually
dicking
5,
around in the
actually.
fucking spirit world. It was so lame.
Yeah, so I think it might have
did
been
not
like 4 to
need
5
to be
episodes.
that long.
Yeah, I think it might have been 4 to 5 episodes. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, it's like, why?
I was
Why are
watching
you doing
Yu-Gi-Oh,
this?
not
I straight
Dragon
up just
Ball.
skipped it.
Yeah, like they got to power up their monsters. Like,
Yeah.
okay.
Dude, it's
Now-
so bad. It's
Now, when
so
it comes to the
bad.
Dark Signer shit, the next two big duels, which is between the Jack and Yusei stuff. Do you guys want to do Jack's first or Yusei's first? Because both of them are pretty fucking good.
Jack. We gotta talk about Jack's one because Jack is hanging it out over here with his fight against Carly.
And I love
It's
how
so
fucking
good.
how Carly doesn't want to do that, like fight him, but she kind of like has to.
Obviously not.
Yeah, and even when she
Yeah.
and I love how during the duel where Jack is trying to try and reach for her, and she has like opportunities to finish him off, but she doesn't take it, and the Earthbound's more like, oh, okay, you're not gonna finish off your boyfriend, that's fine, I'm gonna do it for you, bitch.
Yeah, it basically just takes over her body, trying to make her do that. And what's interesting a little bit about that? Right, that fight with the Spire guy. Oh my god, we almost skipped over a different duel, but we'll get to that one in a bit.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, what's interesting about that is that while she's in the duel, Harley's whole thing is fortune telling, so the Dark Signer shit just kicks that into overdrive. She shows Jack an alternate vision where the Dark Signers win. He becomes a Dark Signer. He basically becomes the ruler of all things with Carly as his bride. You know,
Not a bad
And,
alternative ending.
Yeah, everybody's dead. The whole world is a giant hellscape. But the
Don't
best
fall for it,
couple,
Jack. You
gets
can't.
to be together.
Do not be seduced by the Dark Sinussy.
Yeah, don't let that journalist. Don't let that journalist.
Yeah.
Don't let that journalist over.
You can't.
Listen, she's trying to get you off the grind.
Journusy is temporary. Card games are eternal.
Chase card games, not women.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like that was the answer the whole time.
Yeah.
Chase card games and motorcycles. Not women.
Yeah, I love the part where she fucking is like dying in his
Right.
arms, and he's like holding up, like gives her her glasses back, and they have like this really cool like heartfelt love confession. In the dub they ruin it, like in the dub they ruin it, in season 3 they ruin it too. But like he confesses his love to her as she fucking dies. I'm just like, oh god, that's painful.
That's very painful. But the duel was still really good because this is the first time that Jack is fighting for somebody else other
Yes.
than himself.
Yeah, like he's not doing this just
Like
to
just
save the world. He's
throwing
doing it to
that
try and
whole
save
arc
her.
full circle.
Yeah, like he's not
Yeah,
just fighting.
and he's not trying to do this to like be the best anyway.
No, what I'm saying is he's not just doing this to save the world or be the best. He's doing it because he's trying to save her. Because, she saved him when he was down and out, and now he's trying to do the same. Oh shit. Did I forget to mention? Did we mention the
fantastic.
Jack and Martha shit quickly when I was like away?
Oh, you
Night.
can go ahead with that. You can go. We skipped over that.
Okay.
Bio, be my guest.
Okay, so Jack comes back to see Martha again. He's just like, "Oh, Jack, do that Prince thing you do," and he's just like, "Will my feel?" It's so fucking good. I can't remember the scene well, but it's so fucking goofy.
Yeah. He like
No, yeah, he
kneels.
literally just goes milady.
Milady
Yeah,
just
and, like,
kneels. I
kisses
think he
her
kisses
hand.
her on the hand. Yeah, and then she
It's
dies.
so funny, but it fits so well. Oh yeah, she died. Oh my god, that first duel with the Spider Dark Signer guy was so good because Yusei was fighting him, and a couple of kids were trying to watch the duel. Martha and Trudge were trying to get the kids because one of the kids wants to actually be an officer like Trudge. He thinks that's cool and shit. So he has that sort of emotional thing going on. But then two things happen. Number one, when the Earthbound Immoral was summoned, Martha gets sucked in. So she freaking dies. She gets Thanos'd. And then when the dude was about to lose, he reveals that he possessed Rally. So that Rally is dueling Yusei now. So Yusei either has to let himself lose or kill Rally.
This arc is fucking dark.
Oh my god.
Can I just say
Yeah,
though?
it does. And it
There was a.
It ends with Rally just killing himself.
Can I just say, if Trudge had like a gun, do you think he could make that shot? I'm just saying, because I find it weird that like Godwin has like Godwin, the director of like law enforcement and security in the city, isn't like, oh yeah, by the way, Trudge, you're free to like use a gun, by the way. Because I'm not gonna trust you. I'm not gonna trust these fuckers to win a duel against a Dark Signer if we can't just cap them anyway.
Hey I forgot what's all. Yo, you can use your neutral beef.
I mean, yeah, because like the world is ending if they win. I like
Listen,
that.
why would you bring a gun to a card fight? Okay.
That's a good point.
Why
That's
the
an
fuck would you
excellent.
do
I
that?
don't know what I was thinking, Kaiser.
That duel was really good. Jokes aside, because of just how insanely dark it was. But that was very clever. Just throwing that final bit of like rage into Yusei before we just throw ourselves into this. And then the last duel with Killian was really good.
Yeah, that rematch was great.
Aside from maybe like a couple, I looked up a video that from this guy called, I think his name is Yugioh Everything.
Yeah, Yugioh
no, maybe
Everything.
It's like Anime Everything. Yeah, Yugioh Everything, where he goes over like different duels throughout the series and talks about whether or not there were any misplays in the duel. I think there were like maybe like a couple on Killian's side. Other than that, the duel was just perfect. It was great and it was very compelling. Also, wait a minute. Oh my god, I'm looking through the episodes, right? And Pete, what you said about these officers having guns,
Yeah.
remember when Godwin confronted what's his
Yeah.
name?
I
The
found
spider
it, like-
guy, and he had security guards and they
It
had
was
guns.
like it was actually kind of like a breath of fresh air. I was like, holy shit, the security officers are like actually doing security shit. Like it was almost like I didn't even it took me a while to realize what was happening because that was kind of the part of the like I said, I kind of zoned out a lot of the stuff after the monkey duel, even the good stuff, unfortunately. Like it took me a minute to realize, oh, they have guns. Oh shit, they have guns. Because like, yeah, like that just makes sense. Beating them in a duel, okay, that's one way to do it. But like if you can also just cap them mid-duel, it's like why not?
I mean, yeah,
This is like the
yes,
second time I
but,
brought up like
I
violence about a Yu-Gi-Oh show. I need to stop setting this
I
precedent
mean,
for these
to be
podcasts.
fair, this is a pretty violent installment. I will
Yeah,
say.
all things considered.
Fair.
Yeah, all things considered. And during that duel, Yusei gains the evolution of his Stardust Dragon, basically Majestic Star Dragon,
Mhm.
which barely got played at the time, but gets way more play now because of Stardust support. Thanks,
Yeah.
Konami. Then we get to the second duel with the Spire guy, which was good. It was mainly used to sort of further facilitate the lore behind the series, because for you see, Godwin and the Spider Guy are brothers. And what was it? They and Yusei were part of the same group that created the momentum machine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
which
they're basically
caused
the same. They're all
original
scientists.
earthquake. Yeah, they were scientists that they were in charge of constructing the machine, and they were having trouble with it. And they found out essentially that this machine is potentially going haywire, and if it does, it can potentially just awaken the Earthbound Immortals. But Spire Guy got possessed by an Earthbound Immortal, even though he was also part Dark Signer. So he cut off one of his arms. He lasered it off, I guess, and then gave it to Godwin to say, hey, you gotta stop because I'm about to blow this mother up. And so he blows everything up. He basically just blows everything up. And he just becomes a Dark Signer. And that's how the story begins. They try to do this whole thing with Yusei where, oh, I feel responsible for what happened to everybody because of, stuff with my dad. I wish it was built up a little bit better. I see what they were trying to do with that, but that felt a little bit tacked on. It was still cool though. Really cool though. And then, long story short, we finally get to Godwin.
The big
Who
bird.
wants in on the big burb?
I've seen quite a bit of this podcast. I'll let one of you two take it.
I can't. Like I said, I was zoning out for a lot of these episodes. Kaiser, are you able to?
Okay. No. I can answer this one. So basically, Godwin's whole deal is that he became possessed. Well, actually, no, he didn't become possessed. I mean, in the future, he became possessed by the Dark Signers because he was all like, hey, this eternal battle against the Signers and the Dark Signers is kind of dumb. What if I became both? If I became the alternate like Signer and Dark Signer, then everything will basically be okay. I can make the world in my image, right? So, which is why he has the robot arm, so he can replace it with his brother's arm, right? So he has like the freaking condor fucking dark signer sign on his like back, and by taking the head dragon signer from his brother, he gains all the other dark signer signs and becomes powerful enough to basically become a god. And there.
Hang on, I don't
know,
think that's how
when-
Exodia works. I don't think that's how Exodia's head works.
I don't know,
I'm
but just
pretty
fuck
sure.
it.
Let me look this up. Exodia's head. Okay. You can add all the other limbs of Exodia to you. Oh, my mistake. Never mind. Continue. Yeah, I guess that is how that works. You just have the head and you win. Yeah.
Legitimately, and
what it's about is
what
getting head.
evolves is this like, oh my god. And what evolves is like this 3-part episode duel where Crow, Jack, and Yusei basically go 3-on-1 against Godwin, right? And you know, they pull like the paradox thing where Yusei goes, that I go, then Crow go, that I go, then Jack goes, and then I go.
My plan is great. This is also the first duel that like they use 8,000 life points, don't they?
Yeah, it's it's just the first time they did that.
Which I think is
maybe
cool,
not in
like,
the series, but definitely in this show.
Yeah, I can't think of like there was another time when like someone, because I can't think of like another time that they used 8,000 specifically. I forget, was the life points between Jack, Yusei, and Crow shared between the three of them, or did all of them like have their own kind of?
I know that I think it was all shared between them.
Okay, yeah, God, and I like that because
I
understand the reason why they normally make it 4,000, because fewer life points means fewer things are going to happen. It's going to be duel's going to be a lot quicker. You can cram an entire duel into a single episode, whereas with 8,000 might take a little bit longer than that. And so I like that they are saving like that kind of length for this final duel, even though I zoned out a lot of it.
I thought this was a really cool duel.
Because you have this giant
some routes of it kind of go where you expect. Yeah, it's this big bombastic battle thing, but I was hooked the entire way through because this show gripped me like right from the start. So I was just glued to the seat. I was like, it's like I was 10 all over again when I first saw this, but it's even better now because I'm actually taking the story seriously.
And the best part, it's shorter than the monkey fight.
Yes.
The best part, it's not as long as the goddamn monkey duel. It's half the length of that, I think.
True. Yeah, it's about like 3 episodes, a 3-part duel.
2.5, more like it,
which
because they
makes
start
sense.
the duel like halfway through episode 62. But yeah,
yeah, basically. Oh my gosh. And yeah, like I said, it was really good. A lot of really cool plays and moments from the characters. Jack throwing aside his pride a little bit to help out Yusei. And the only thing I'm not okay with was just the fact that Godwin is just mustache twirling the whole time. And I was like, man,
that
I
was
thought
the part,
we were a little bit above this.
Yeah, that was the part where the show kind of lost me. I was just like, yeah, but he was like a really cool villain up to that point.
I feel like
because
I feel like what they could have if they characterized him a little bit, I feel like they worked like, well, I say this now because I liked the mystique of him earlier and I praised that earlier, but I feel like if they actually bothered to characterize him a little bit more before this reveal, I feel like it wouldn't, like the whole mustache twirling element wouldn't even be that bad, because you have a lot of like stuff that you can set up with him being the director of security, basically in charge of everything in the city. He is in charge of all law enforcement, pretty much any kind of military forces in the city. He's in charge of all of it. He has like so much control that he has enacted this almost dystopian Orwellian kind of system overall.
Even let satellite be where it is and let no bridge come between that and the main city, just because he knew that the Dark Signers would be over there. Because
again, with like all Orwellian dystopians, they usually come about, from like good intentions, but a very, very warped understanding of like how to solve problems that they face. And I imagine if you had characterized him a little bit more as like someone who enacted all these really cruel, almost cyberpunk like way of basically controlling the city and that kind of stuff, like as a means to like ensure safety, prosperity, and all that kind of stuff. Like he has all these kinds of good intentions in mind, but he can only achieve these things through power. And then because he has this realization, he then understands that he has to gain more power in order for him to achieve, in his mind, more peace, more prosperity. You can build up. That is sort of what they're doing.
I think that's what they kind kind of did. That's kind of what they did.
I just feel like there wasn't enough characterization beforehand, like before all this kind of happened, and they want to focus so much on the mystique that there was very little character left for you to build up to this, to make this fight like really that meaningful. At least that's how I felt about it.
Honestly, I would have been all like even more impressed if they didn't go, if he was a lot more regretful with what he is doing.
Yeah,
you know,
like he sees it as like, yeah,
he's more like Superman Red Sun about it. You know what I mean?
It sucks. Yeah, he's like, it sucks what I'm doing. A lot of people are hurting. I understand that, but like, you know, peace comes at a price or something like that. You know, I am doing these horrible things.
Like I will end the cycle.
I will be the ire of like people's scorn for enacting these things. It is a burden that I will, like, he actually sees the fact that he has so much power, that he is oppressing so many people as a burden, that like his mind is just that twisted that, you know, him being responsible for all these things.
Like Ironwood.
Yeah.
Like Ironwood.
Yeah.
Is he a better written Ironwood from Ruby?
Maybe. I mean, like,
well, he overall, then again, you know, like Ironwood was well written. Jake Steelbark is not.
Yeah. Okay. So we're talking about the theoretical Ironwood, but yeah, I just feel like, you know, as much that was what they were going for. I just wish that they had like more moments to characterize him, even just stuff where like, you know, just have like moments where maybe you have him just kind of reflect on the state of the city. You don't even have to reveal his past to do stuff like that. You can show that he is regretful of like the kinds of decisions that he's making. You can have like him maybe reflecting on something that happened in the past, just vaguely giving vague images about his decisions or like decisions involved with the reactor explosion way back when. You can like talk about like these other kinds of things without revealing everything. Just, you know, give him some human moments. This was why Jack was so good, is because he wasn't just a Kaiba clone. Is that he actually gave a shit that he lost and, you know, was actually kind of distraught about it.
Yes.
You know, and that's kind of what I feel like we're missing.
This would have helped set him apart from Pegasus.
Yeah.
That would help set Godwin apart from Pegasus.
He's just missing that humanity, I feel. Really? And a lot of it is kind of, you know, it is there. It's just at the last minute. Because up until then, it's just, oh, I am mysterious. And like, yeah, he is mysterious.
Spiders.
Condors.
Props to anyone who gets that joke.
Yes.
Props to anyone who gets that joke.
I know exactly what you're talking about, guys.
Yeah, so the Dark Sun arc ends with a bang, and eventually, you know, a bridge is built between Satellite and New Domino, and that's where kind of like the first two seasons of Yu-Gi-Oh! End. We're not going to go too much into like season 3 or season 4. I mean, we've almost had like 3 hours of podcast, and that's only for the first two fucking seasons, like what, first 50 episodes of this fucking show. So, you know, but I will mention that the Crash Town arc is based, and you should watch it.
Yeah, basically. If nothing else, this video should prove to you that 5D's is some good fucking Yu-Gi-Oh! Like no other initial like first season of Yu-Gi-Oh! Has a plot this goddamn tight and this fleshed out at the same time. There is almost zero fat. It's good food. Like, it is good food. Like, and you just, it's so addicting to get into too. Like, you do not want to turn it off, especially not like the first like 20 episodes. You want to get immediately to the next one because you get so into the characters though in the entire goddamn time. It's so compelling. And a lot of the topics that it has is kind of relevant today when you think about it a little bit, but that's a different discussion.
Yeah, so my summary of it is that, you know, you guys know my general thoughts on like Yu-Gi-Oh! As a whole, and, you know, there's a lot of elements about Yu-Gi-Oh!
Card games are serious
business. There's a lot of it that I find very silly. There's a lot of it that, you know, I kind of laugh at, but there's a lot about that silliness that is just part of its charm, and I love it so much. And the fact that like they are able to maintain that while also having these very special moments here and there. I wouldn't even say that the story as a whole is particularly special or standoutish, but there is enough. You know, it's the little bits here and there. It's the conflict between Jack and Yusei. It's the background and inner conflict with Aki. It's all this other kind of stuff that, you know, happens in between all the silliness that really keeps me engaged. And just card games on motorcycles, man.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Now, before we just wrap up, we're just going to talk about a little bit of the characters and the music and like what we thought about the art and animation before like we fully wrap up with ending closing thoughts. So, you say Fudo is a main protagonist. Yay or nay, people? I'm going to go yay.
Absolute yay.
I don't see a whole lot
this
wrong
dude
with it, so
is
yeah.
S tier.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I just want to say what makes you
like,
say
maybe he'll get lower as the seasons go on, which often happens with all of the protagonists now that I think about it, but they give him such a good start.
Yeah.
Like, aside from nostalgia, I will, if we're talking about the first season, comparing the first season of each of the protagonists, Yusei is top tier. He is S tier. He is better than all of them, in my opinion.
Yeah, what I think is interesting
Even
about like
better
what I
than
think about it, like
Yusaku.
okay, yeah, like what I think about Yusei. What's interesting about Yusei is that like you know considering like Yu-Gi-Oh and GX as a thing came out before him, right? Is that like unlike those other two, he's a bit more mature. He has a lot more going on. He kind of has this kind of like street angle thing, and I think like out of most of the protagonists, he seems to be like the most emotionally mature actually out of all of them. You know, like unlike most Yu-Gi-Oh protagonists, he doesn't actually ignore the girl who has a crush on him. He's just like, yeah, we'll just put that to the side for now. We'll get around to it.
Yeah.
dude's
And it's like, I think what really makes him so good is just that even though that he, yeah, like you say, he isn't as super like hot-blooded as the other protagonists, he still represents the spirit of what it means, you know, what the game means to him. And throughout the show, you have to see how that works. And he actually feels so connected to the world around him, really, along with all the other characters, to be honest. So I think, it's hard to describe because his character is very simple, but the way in which the story shows that makes it good.
It's got
and I think they do it the best out of like all the other ones.
No, what I think what makes him work is that yeah, like on paper, like he's a very simple character, but they give him like so much shit going on with him. Like there's like so much stuff going on with him, and I think that's what partly makes him interesting. Like he's not the most complicated individual out there, but he has so much going on that I think it makes it interesting. And I'm just gonna say that like I would say the cast of 5D's is probably like the most likable cast. Like it's like the Straw Hats from One Piece. Like they have this like camaraderie and bond. Like I could probably watch a slice of life show just featuring the protagonists from like Yu-Gi-Oh 5D's and shit because their interactions are so much fun.
And fucking like the show
especially
about
the
them
part
like
where he and
kids.
Jack punch each other in the face.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just like
Yeah, they did, and it was
I would
really
watch
good.
I would watch a show about like the cast of 5Ds as like kids, and like Martha's watching after them, and they're just being a bunch of dumbasses playing off of one another with like the same kind of character dynamics that they have.
Yeah, like the character dynamics for the characters of 5D's is really fucking good, especially like when they become like the main team, like season 3. You know, like there's a really great character dynamic, and there's like some season 3's kind of a mixed bag, but there's some good moments, like when Bruno gets introduced or something like that, and like Yusei's having like his fucking bromance, and everyone's like brooding because Yusei's now ignoring them, and like Aki comes up and is like, "Oh, sorry, your boyfriend's busy with his new boyfriend." What? They've been talking for hours. All they do is just talk about motorcycles. They haven't said a single word to us. We're being ignored.
I mean, hey, we've been talking for hours.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to Jack Atlas, what I like about Jack Atlas as a rival character is that I think I talked about this with Kaiser like ages ago, but like he's this weird hybrid between like a Giga Chad and a goofball.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. And it's really great.
Which
Like,
that
you have this whole gag where after he loses, because they always like make him voiced by, they have him voiced by Dio. Dio voices Jack Atlas.
Yes.
In the sub, in case
oh
anyone
right,
wants
he
to
is.
know.
I didn't even notice that.
You didn't notice?
You didn't know this was fucking Dio?
I don't know why I didn't notice that. Hold on, pull up an
Are you
episode of him talking.
serious?
Hold on.
Yeah, it's
Dude,
literally the voice
Pete,
actor for
come
fucking Dio, man. Like,
This was like hard to miss. Man, you were
Okay,
really
I guess-
glazing over, man.
All right, I'll take the L. All right, I'm done for this podcast.
Take the L, Pete.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
wearing it.
yeah, like
Wearing it well.
that's what I really like about Jack Atlas is you think he's like kind of like this arrogant douchebag, but then you get more into him, it's just like, nah, he's this Giga Chad goofball who actually has like decent motivations for doing what the fuck he's doing, as we've mentioned before. I mean, who wouldn't want to get out of the fucking slum? Like if I was fucking stuck in satellite, like I'd probably do whatever it takes to get the fuck out.
Yeah, essentially. But despite the fact that he is like very self-interested, they make it very compelling by making it a little bit existential, kind of, because it's not just about him wanting a better life. It's what wanting that better life even means, right? What it means to him is to actually, it's what does it mean to be a king, really? What does it mean to be the best? All that stuff. And what does it mean to, for having other people in your life along that path? And I think that's what really makes his story work, at least in my opinion, is that they really explore that in a good way. I don't know how the other seasons do it, because I never really got that far, but I hope they keep that moving. I really hope so.
Yeah. When it comes to like Aki and when it comes to the twins, I don't think there's really much to say. I mean, they have more shit to do in like later seasons. What's all our thoughts on Aki? Because I think she's good. She's pretty good. She's one of the better female characters.
Akiza's great in this season.
Yeah, I think so.
I heard some things about what they do with her later, but they're not very great things.
Mixed bag.
But as far as this first season goes, she is literally like throwing all the other female protagonists, or most of the female characters, to be honest, in Yu-Gi-Oh franchise in the freaking garbage. Okay, they're all just she is wiping the floor with all of them.
Yeah, like the future seasons with her, it's just very much like a mixed bag. It's a bit of a mixed bag overall. What do we all think about Crow?
Crow's good. I think Crow is good. At least in this season, anyways.
I mean, I don't have anything bad to say about him. I just don't really have much good either. He's there. He's okay.
I think him in his fight with Bomber was really good.
Yeah.
Really showcased a lot of like the whole bad cycle of revenge type beat, putting that much more into the forefront here.
Oh, can you repeat that
instead
again?
Instead of like one character looking for revenge. Okay. Oh yeah. I think that Crow's good. I think his whole fight with him and Bomber was good, especially since this is the case where instead of one character being out for revenge and one character that isn't, both characters want the same thing out of each other, and it's sort of just exploring why the hell that's wrong, because you can tell that if things were different, they would not be fighting each other like this. They wouldn't.
Yeah, it's like someone who could be your friend but is your enemy because you're just on different sides of the fence. We'll just wrap through this quickly. The OST for Yu-Gi-Oh! The OST for Yu-Gi-Oh! OST, it's great in the sub. Dub is just like, listen, as much as I like
top tier.
Yeah, it's great. I don't think there's like a single bad opening. I mean, maybe the third OP for the show is a little meh, but I still think it's not a bad beat.
Yeah, all of the openings, at least for this season, and probably going forwards from what I remember hearing, are really good. The second ending is like, oh my god, like it's so good. It's so good. It's so dramatic, and it revs up and it doesn't let up the entire time. I love it. I love it so much.
Okay.
Yeah, 4Kids just can't compare.
Yeah,
and just the OST.
But I mean,
4Kids wishes.
Yeah, but I mean, in fairness, if it's not
you know what? I kind of nailed
it. Like for 4Kids, if it's not the Pokemon opening or it's not the opening to Yu-Gi-Oh! Gen 1.
What about One Piece? What about the One Piece rap? That was good.
Or what about the Shaman King OP, dude?
Yeah, that was pretty good. Okay, like listen. Okay, we killed Pete. Are you back from the dead now?
I'm going to tolerate your existence for saying that.
Say it in my face, bitch. Look, we'll meet halfway. I'll fly halfway. You can fly halfway to me. We can duel. We can have card games on aeroplanes.
I'm down with.
Oh my
only
God,
if one of them is a Blue Eyes jet.
You know, that should be the next Yu-Gi-Oh show.
Okay,
fucking card games on fighter jets.
Yeah, just like
Why
that's
not?
the new gimmick that they add in every new game.
Be Ace Combat Yu-Gi-Oh edition.
Yeah.
Okay. Animation.
I wouldn't mind them bringing back like Deck Masters. Sorry, I didn't mean to like
that's
extend
fine.
this any longer.
I'm assuming we have no problem with the animation. I thought the CGI was alright as well. Didn't like clash too bad.
For its time.
It works.
I like it.
Alright.
It works.
All right.
But
now
other parts of the animation, especially in the Aki duels, are great.
Yeah. Now, just ending thoughts for Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. I think it's a good show. It's definitely like, as far as Yu-Gi-Oh! Shows go so far, it's probably like in the top 3, with the OG and like Yu-Gi-Oh! Reigns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%.
I think so.
I would if we're talking about just this season, I would give it a flat 7.5 out of 10. It is insanely good. Like, basically, it's so good it almost transcends being a Yu-Gi-Oh show.
Yeah.
For me, anyways.
Yeah, I'd give it a 7. Definitely no lower than a 6.
I would say for me altogether, I'd give it like maybe a 7, maybe an 8 out of 10. Like, it's good. It's good. Even for a Yu-Gi-Oh show, it's good, and even on its own, it's actually pretty good, and it actually tackles some very serious and topics. Now, we've been almost talking for almost like 4 hours, and my throat's getting sore, and I've got a shit ton of podcasts to edit. So so Yu-Gi-Oh 5D's, watch it, people. It's good.
And contrary,
at least
contrary to
watch the first season. Yeah, go ahead.
And well, no, finish what you're gonna say. I'm about to end this off with a really bad pun.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh my god. Alrighty, man. I was just going to say and hey, for those of you who probably won't like the later seasons for whatever goddamn reason, the first season pretty much ends on a relatively conclusive note. So you could just end it right there, not watch the rest, and you got probably the best that Yu-Gi-Oh has ever been, which kind of says a lot about how Yu-Gi-Oh story-wise has been since then, but it is what it is.
I mean that's the thing with like Yu-Gi-Oh 5Ds, is it could have just ended there, and I would have been completely fine with it.
And don't let the title scare you.
But
if you
either way, would be still good.
You gonna finish, or like should I? It's gonna be it's gonna be bad.
Go.
I'm just all right. Hope you guys are sitting for this.
Oh, man.
But yeah, don't let the title scare you away. Because there's more than 5 guys.
God, that was fucking terrible.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Ending in